Hello, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this almost end of October live stream. So this is number 70, and this is actually the 7th week in a row we're doing it on regular Sunday night. So I absolutely appreciate everybody popping on. And one of the things, you guys let me know if the audio, if it is synced up to the video or not, or I will have to absolutely address that. We're going to go through your questions. Do have a couple of topics planned for this video based for this live stream based on what we recently discussed. I do see we have a guest who is already going to be here. So we will be joined by a good channel friend. Somebody, I think out of everybody, he is the one who most consistently comes onto our live stream, and that is Mr. Bullets for Bucks. Crap, what did I hit on the button? Steven, let me know when you're ready. Give me a thumbs up. Perfect. And I will bring you on. Hello, sir.
Hey.
Hold on. Wait.
What was that feedback?
1 second. Speakers.
There
we go. And wow.
Pretty soon I'm going to have to start charging for my presence.
Thank you, my lord.
Why does it sound funny tonight? What's going on here?
So actually, hold on. Give me 1 second. Because I have my speakers. My speakers were coming through the microphone thing. It's not you. Okay, headphones. Okay, can you say something now? Perfect.
Hello.
Yes,
hello.
You're good. I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's strange.
Okay, who keeps freezing? Is it Christopher? So there's a comment that someone keeps freezing. Is it Steven? Is it me? Is it everybody? And we can basically figure that out. So let us know on that. Sorry, I just noticed something.
What? It's not in the screen, is it?
No, there's something on this. Wait, what's not on the screen?
It's not on your screen though. Your split screen. Talking about that.
Okay. No, I just saw the name tag that you put on.
Oh, daddy. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So if you've been coming onto our live streams, you'd notice that for the last few times, I haven't had the name tags displayed. And if you want to know a reason why, that's the reason why. Steven has a tendency to put these weird, long, big things on. And the problem is, so when somebody joins in on our studio side, so we use an app called Melon to stream. So when somebody comes on, there's an option in there. It'll tell us somebody has joined the stream. And it would be Bullets for Bucks, the best damn YouTube gun channel, has joined the stream, and it's awkward. Ugh. Even if he might be the best damn YouTube channel on there. So now he has a daddy on there. And the reason why I even brought the name tags back is, so last week we had Ilya on the channel, Mr. Dark Lord of Optics, and I didn't have the name tags displayed, and there's comments that basically popped up, hey, what's the name of the guest? What's the name of the guest? I'm like, okay, let me finish and address that. So we did.
No, we got lots of questions already. Hey, yeah, Michael. Hey, North. Was it Northman?
Yes.
Northman.
You have a fan. So Mr. Canadian so Steven, I know it snowed by you and you had a white Halloween. Alex, did it snow by you in our 51st state or no? Yes. So
the Socialist Republic of Canada. Who are you asking, him or me?
You.
Oh, I'm all right. It's been an interesting month, but yeah, we got like a foot of snow. What was it, like Wednesday or something like that? I don't remember now, but nobody's really done Halloween here yet, obviously. I mean, like, some people have partied over the weekend. I didn't, but we're going to do our Halloween on Halloween, but we go to a fall fun fest at a church here in town. So we keep it pretty tame.
Yeah, so our Halloween was actually this weekend. So one of the big issues, like if you, for example, if you live in a more populated state, one of the issues you'd sometimes run into is people trick-or-treating at like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And it's like, okay, a lot of gun owners would start reaching for their guns at that point. So a lot of the towns where we are in Northeast Pennsylvania, and I know a lot of the towns in New Jersey do this as well. So we have like preset hours, like preset approved days for when you can go trick-or-treating. And they'll generally pick the weekend. And so, for example, for us, it's usually the weekend. It's the Sunday before Halloween, unless it falls on a Sunday itself. And it's between, let's say, the hours of 3 and 5 p.m. People are expected, hey, you're going to have trick-or-treaters go out there. So for us, it was this weekend, but it rained. And I know, like, for you, like you said, it snowed, like, which is a little crazy for us. But the snow came after the hunt for you, correct?
Yes and no. I mean, so yeah, I hunted most of 21 days of October. Well, really the last day of September. So into October, I did come back for like a couple half days or like one weekend, I think, or something like that. But yeah, it snowed a tiny bit the beginning of October where I was down by Colorado, and then back above where I'm at in northern Wyoming, it snowed a decent amount, like the third, let's see, it was like the 13th or 12th of October. And that was my elk season started the 10th of October. So it snowed pretty good. It actually blocked a lot of access. I dove off the mountain pretty irritable. And then I grabbed two snowmobiles that I have and went back up, but one of them wouldn't start. So that kind of caused some issues as well. But I went in one day on a snowmobile, but the snowmobile laws are kind of weird. Like you can't go off road that early in the year, even if there's snow, but you can go on the roads if there's snow on Forestry Service roads. So I did try like a half day, but the problem was by the time I had gotten the snowmobile up there, it was already like the 14th or 15th. By the time I went to use it, actually, because I helped another guy that was a friend of a friend for free, trying to help him get an elk. Anyway, by the time I went to use it, there was like 6-foot drifts on the mountain in spots, so you had to use it or have a tracked vehicle. I don't have a tracked vehicle, so you had to use it. But the problem was that there was also like there'd be like a 6-foot drift for a half a mile, and then there would be like a mile of dirt and rock, like hard trail. And so that snowmobile just got like destroyed basically because I was using it like essentially on dry ground half the time or 2/3 of the time, and then on snow the other. And so just wrecks your snowmobile doing that. But fortunately, it kind of melted off, and then somebody, I think it was a rancher, like plowed one of the Forestry Service roads because they had cattle in there, which is super unusual. And that allowed me to get access back to my favorite two spots. And then I was about ready to give up for the first time, like ever, basically just kind of having an off season on everything. But I was elk hunting, and it was like the 11th day or 10th day or whatever for elk, and I went in to shoot a cow just so I could fill the tag and get meat in the freezer. And then a bull was a cow elk. That's what you call a female elk. So yeah, so deer, a female deer, it's buck and doe and fawn. For elk, it's bull, cow, elk. So it's a little bit different than what people refer to like whitetail and mule deer and all that. So elk and moose are bull and cow.
I'm like, were you so hungry that you needed a raw steak? I know now one of the things that you're famous for in our private Discord group is that you're definitely hardcore hunter. You love your bear balls. I'm like, you shouldn't eat a raw cow.
No, it's funny because there's cows, like beef cows, a lot of times where you're hunting cow elk, and so people will like sometimes use them interchangeably and confuse each other, or they'll joke like, hey, there's a I forget the nicknames, but there's an actual like cow instead of
interesting.
But yeah, and I think caribou same way. So bull caribou, cow caribou. That one might sometimes I've heard that one used back and forth, but yeah, it's just these little nuances, terminology or whatnot, and whatnot. But I did get I got a bull like the last second. I was like literally setting up to shoot a cow, and I was like, well, there's a bull there. I didn't realize was there, very much right next to the cow.
All right, so let's dive into it. So the topics I had for today were, so this week I went out to the range actually twice. I'm looking through the comments, and somebody commented that it's a nice cold 60 degrees down in New Mexico. And so, honestly, here in Northeast Pennsylvania, we've had a beautiful week. It was like in the 70s the entire week, except today it finally turned cold. So I'm like, okay, before the winter is coming, let me go out to the range as much as I can, record as much raw footage as I can. So this week I went twice. I had 9 guns in the car with me, just to record with. I did a bunch of videos. We finished wrapping up with the Arkin, so my old EP5, which I was planning on doing a video or not, the new Arkin EPL4, thank you, Mr. Epic Arms, the SH4 Gen 3, which I had, and the SH4. Let's see if I can. Okay, and the new SH4J, and got a bunch of through-the-scope footage, and then we're playing with a couple of new guns. So I did finish. Interestingly, so the topic for this one was the Springfield 2020 Rimfire. The Springfield 2020 Rimfire is the idea of the gun was fantastic. I was really excited about it. So obviously, anybody who's been on YouTube or been a gun tuber, one of the biggest memes going around all the time is whenever Springfield launches a new gun, they have a shill army that goes out there and promotes the products hardcore, more so than I would say any other company out there. And really, it comes down to is the way Springfield launches a product. They go out there and they definitely support it with a lot of marketing dollars, and they do pay for videos, they do pay for specific content, and that is not going to be a review video, even though it comes from the same people who are generally also known for having fairly good, fairly unbiased videos. Now, the problem that we run into is, and the FTC, because the influencer economy has been around for quite a while now, the FTC has come in and they basically say, look, if you were paid in any way, shape, or form for the video, whether that means you got a check or whether you got product, you have to disclose that relationship. And I think this is one of the biggest and most confusing parts for viewers such as yourself, and that is, okay, well, we're watching a video, we have to guess in the back of our minds, okay, well, was this video paid for? Was this video actually unbiased? Did the guy get paid for the video? Did he get the gun or the product on loan? Or was he gifted the product? Or, hey, is that video is being shot in a really warm location? Did they fly him out to Hawaii in order to make this video, which often actually happens with hunting type content? So even though that's the guidelines and that's what you're supposed to do, I would say the vast majority of people in the firearms community don't disclose that relationship. And I don't think that there is anything necessarily wrong with being paid for your work. You just need to disclose it because that's a different type of video. And people are smart enough to understand that, hey, I'm watching this video. This was a video that was paid for. That means I shouldn't expect an unbiased review. And most certainly, there's probably not going to be anything negative said about it. And at the end of the day, the thing you have to realize is if the company's paying you for a video, well, before that video is published and released, the company had final say and final approval in order for that video to go live. Versus an unbiased video, or let's say even for example, like when Arkin sends out a scope video, they don't send any additional checks with it. They just send the products for free, but they don't basically tell you, hey, you can't release the video until we actually approve it for you or something along those lines. Now, there are other, I would say, drivers and motivation as it comes to those types of accessories, but generally speaking, I think in most cases when reviewers get product, we don't, even if the product was for keeps and so even if the products are for keeps and we don't have to send it back, I still think generally we are unbiased, but more importantly, we don't need to show that video to somebody else, and we don't need to follow the approved talking points for whatever the product is. So the issue with the Springfield 2020 is on paper, it looked really, really solid. And on paper, they did give an accuracy guarantee, which was At 50 yards, it'll do a 1-inch group of 3 shots with quality ammo when you do your part. Now, this was supported and I would say driven, marketing wise, driven by the fact that, well, here, I'll bring it up, by some of the marketing claims that Springfield made, which were, hold on, so I will share it right on here. Yes, I'm over 21. Okay, so let me share it on the screen.
Do they ask if you're a spy on there?
Probably. Steven, I sent you a message. If you can lower your volume, like you're getting a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. On the
Okay.
mic, it's auto. I moved it farther from me. It could be my furnace. My furnace, since it's
No,
winter
it's
now,
actually, it's you. It's like actually, you're
like I'm
fine.
just really loud, or
Yes. Okay.
it's on auto, so I'm not really
It's an auto.
sure.
Okay. Well, if you have a knob on the front, you can probably turn it down just a little bit. Or look in the on the bottom where it says like your audio settings. You should be able to do that. Okay, so here's basically the 2020 website. So the model 2020 Rimfire family offers a refined Rimfire rifle with all the quality and performance you've come to expect from Springfield Armory. Now, granted, there's 2 ways you can look at that statement. So the first way you can look at it is, wow, like we should expect quality and performance. On the other side is, if we're basing it upon the last few product releases that Springfield has come out with, well, then they're telling you right there you should expect a piece of garbage. Now, so offered in both classic wood and stock and target synthetic stock versions, the 2020 Rimfire carries an impressive accuracy guarantee and heirloom quality firearm that you'll keep for generations. Then there's actually one other like note, which was, okay, so there's the accuracy guarantee. So there's one statement where like really rubbed me the wrong way, which was, oh, so the barrel is free floated. No, it's not. The front of the barrel, the fore end is actually rubbing the barrel, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. So there was actually one quote, and I believe it was either in a video or in one of these listings, but it basically said that the quality is unmatched for the price point. The accuracy is unmatched for the price point. So when I went out to the range, so the first thing I did, I went out to the range 7 times with this rifle before making the video. And the first thing that I did was, I'm like, all right, let me actually go shoot it. And kind of like the only reason I even bought it. So when I saw the rifle, okay, it has a lot of really cool features. Number one, you can use a Remington 700 trigger. Number two, it was patterned after the 2020 centerfire. And I think the 2020 centerfire feels really solid. And when I shot it at a lot of the media events, it was great. So you have a pretty nice looking stock. So combine all of that with the first videos that came out, even though you should expect they're going to be paid for, but all of these guys are saying, wow, this gun is accurate. This gun is great. It's a great target gun. And then you have 22 rimfire shooters who go out and buy the gun with their own money and say, wow, this thing is garbage. One of them actually even bought the gun, it couldn't shoot, sent it back to Springfield. Springfield said they fixed it. They sent it back to him. It was shooting worse than it was before he sent it in. So when you have such a delta between what the paid shills are saying and what the people who paid their own money for it are saying, you're like, okay, I really got to find out what's going on with it. So that's the reason why. Like I tried contacting Springfield to see if I can get one. They didn't respond. I tried a couple of times. I even called them. So then I went to my local dealer. I'm like, hey, can you order me this rifle? They were able to find one at a distributor. I bought it, went out to the range, and I start shooting it. So interestingly, the first ammo that I ran through it, which was I think like CCI standard velocity, it was like a 5-shot group at 50 yards was just like right around like 1.25 or like 1.5 inches. I'm like, okay, well, this is actually going to get like a lot better because we're shooting garbage ammo. And as I started shooting more, the groups got worse and worse. And by the time we got to like match ammo, which at that the one I had there was Ely match, it was shooting like 2.5, 3-inch groups at 50 yards. I'm like, all right, something has to be wrong. It's probably me. I'm getting tired at the range. Um, I put on a really nice scope. I put a $1,500 track toric on there. Same thing. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it has to be me as the shooter. So this most recent trip, I got that gun. I brought and I shot 7 different types of various ammo, including 4 different types of match ammo, including La Poisse Center X, SK match, Ely match, SK flat nose target, um, CCI match, CCI standard velocity, and Federal auto match bolt box. But even though it has match in the name, there's nothing match about it. But that gun still couldn't shoot. So to compare it, I'm like, okay, so I have the brand new Ruger Precision Rimfire. Well, it's new to me, and then the Ruger American Long Range Target, which I did shorts on. So I'm like, okay, we're going to compare it to that and see how we're doing. But I'm like, you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I had the Thompson Center TCR 22, semi-auto 1022 clone. I ran the same ammo through it. So we went from a Springfield, which cost $400 with a $1,500 track toric, to I took the $150 Thompson Center TCR 22, which is now even discontinued, semi-auto, and I put on one of these cheap Arkans. I think it was the EPL 4, $300 scopes. The SH4, I'm sorry, the TCR, the Thompson Center 1022 clone, shot groups that were half the size of the Springfield, and all of them were right around 1-inch 5-shot groups out of a semi-auto with a cheap scope. And I was even shooting it later in the day as the sun was already completely setting. So at that point, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with the Ruger Precision Rimfire or the Ruger American Rimfire. Is already late in the day. And then I went back out the next day and I did confirm it, and those guns just shot even lights out. So that gun, the 2020, I mean, so does it actually do the accuracy match guarantee? Yes. It has the ability to put together a 3-shot group with certain lots of ammo when you do your part as the shooter at 50 yards. But there's so many other guns that can do significantly better with much more variety of ammo for either less money, or for more money you can get a much better gun. So yeah, the Springfield 2020, and honestly, it's like the thing that irks me the most about it, and you'll see it in the video, on the bottom of the trigger guard, it has Springfield Armory, puts the American flag. There's absolutely nothing American about the gun. The gun is made in Turkey by Rite Firearms. So it's just, and like it's an issue. And I guess the reason why I would be a little bit more ticked off about it is it's not like Springfield actually goes out there and says, hey, here's a target style gun, go shoot it and have fun. But they say, hey, we have an accuracy guarantee, which in most cases, most rifles should, when somebody comes out with an accuracy guarantee, most of the rifles are going to surpass that with many more shooters. But this gun just doesn't do it. But then beyond that, their marketing claims are so off the chain that you got to give him crap for it. And that's why I'm like highly irked and irritated about the 2020. So as I basically say in the video, I took one for the team for you guys. So that's to answer that question. And so Stephen, you actually posted next up how to settle a defamation lawsuit with Springfield. Honestly, there's so many other people who are having the same issues. What I'm waiting for is for Springfield to kind of come out and say, hey, like this is how we're going to improve it, or was there an issue with the expectations. Because here's the sad part about the gun. The action is super smooth. The stock, I like the shape of it, but it just doesn't shoot, or it doesn't shoot as it's supposed to. So
How's the mic?
your mic is fine, except when you yawn really loudly, we can all hear it.
Like how is it any better or not though? Is it any better?
Your volume is a little bit lower, so you're good.
Are you sure?
Yes, it seems to be okay. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll battle through it. All right. So how does it compare to the Ruger American bolt action? The Ruger Americans were more accurate. They're shooting at groups about half the size. Interestingly, the only ammo which was a little bit different in both. So the Rugers really liked SK and Center X. So the Center X. Do I have? Oh, let me see if I have them here.
He says Springfield 2020. I'm assuming he's referring to rimfires, but
yeah, the 2020 Rimfire. Yeah, the 2020 Rimfire. Which ones were these? I'm trying to remember which day this was from. Okay, so here's the Ruger Rimfire. This was a 5-shot group, and then this was a 6-shot group with the Ruger American Rimfire. Yeah. And then this was Ruger American Rimfire. This was SK ammo. It just has for a factory gun. Now I know if Josh, Pursuit of Accuracy, was here, he's very snobbish with his rimfires, but for a stock gun, I think it does a tremendous job. Now, so the targets from the 2020 are still in the car, but basically it was like shooting all over this place. It's basically like 3-shot groups. So instead of having a small group here, it'd just be very, very horrible. Yeah, so I would not even worry about it. Now, the really interesting part is because you can pick up a Ruger Precision Rimfire for right around the same money as a Springfield 2020 Rimfire, and the aftermarket for the Ruger Precision Rimfires is there. And now you even have, I know one of the biggest complaints about it was that the Ruger Precision Rimfire, the chassis is like plastic and it's like, eh. Well, now you can actually get a metal aftermarket chassis for that gun from Sharps Brothers. So you have the Heat Seeker chassis for it, which is just fantastic. So, yep. All right, Steven, here's a question for you. Are you still a fan of the Howa TSP-X? I'm thinking of buying one in 300 PRC.
Hey, Newman. I don't know if you're still here or not, but I'll answer the question. So the TSP-X, I don't actually have it anymore. I did have it for about a year. Sent it back to Legacy Sports because it was on loan. I loved it. I still think that it's a good rifle and I would recommend it. There was some complaints that like the modular components of it maybe had some play in them. Mine never did. Like there was no play between the foldable buttstock and the main part of the chassis or anything like that on mine. I was really happy with it. It's made out of Australia by Southern Cross Small Arms, actually, which is a smaller company out of Australia. So I think it's great. I would buy one. It was a great range gun, target gun, in my opinion.
Okay. Would you recommend them in 300 PRC?
Yeah. I mean, mine was in 6.5 PRC, and it seemed great. I can't. Did 6.5 PRC come out before 300? Didn't it come out before 300
yes,
PRC?
So 6.5 PRC came out before 300 PRC. But interestingly, though, so while a lot of the companies chamber 6.5 PRC in their standard action, Howa and Ruger, for the Americans, they chamber 6.5 PRC in the long actions. So right. That was actually one of the unique things. So when I got my Howa in 6.5 PRC and I had an aftermarket stock for it, I'm like, oh, wait, crap. I didn't realize it that it was 6.5 PRC in Howa is a long action, so the short action. So basically, it's going to be the same, except just different chambering for the Howa.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there can be any issues. I don't know if that comes with a muzzle brake now or not, or how it's configured in the TSPX or what you're looking at on the shelf. But I would definitely get a muzzle brake for it, obviously being a 300 PRC. But it's a heavy rifle, so I mean, the mitigation of recoil should be adequate, just fine with 300
Awesome.
PRC.
All right. All right. And so one of the things I am going to take a quick break and bring this up. So people have been asking me for quite a while for awesome things. So what we're having right now is we have patches. So we have PVC patches which are being produced right now, and they should be here in about 2 weeks. So this was the design we're going to be. It's a 2024 design. I was originally planning on launching them for SHOT Show. And then I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me actually, since there's so much interest in it, you can get these patches, and they are going to be glow in the dark. So the outside is going to be glow in the dark along with the Slav. You can pick those up. So we set up an online store, luxgun.com, luxgun.com. I will post that link in the chat right now. And if you're a channel member, there is also a significant discount to those as well, but those are definitely going to go a long way towards supporting the channel, and you can put them on your hats, your bags, and all of that stuff. They are limited, so we're doing a run of 1,000, and there's not going to be any more after that. Those, so you'd absolutely should have those. And once again, if you want a discount, so right now we're doing a pre-launch for them for $8.99. And then if you are a SlavGuns channel member, so hit the join button down below, there's a $3 coupon. So it's going to be $5.99 if you're a channel member. And those are the patches. So they're 4 inches by 4 inches. They are going to come with the hook parts. So they're going to be ready to go onto your patch walls, your bags, things like that. And they're going to be individually packaged for you. So luxgun.com, that is our site. There you can also pick up, we have stickers, but secret, I'm going to include stickers in there. And I do have about 5 SHOT Show bags worth of swag, which my wife is threatening to toss it. So I am going to be including SHOT Show swag that I've accumulated. And for anybody who's purchasing the SlavGuns patches, I'll be including other stuff in those as well. And then if you're interested in a couple of tripods, we do have the tripods listed on the websites as well. I'm going to have detailed videos on these very soon. I know Steven has done videos on them as well, and you can find those on there. So so the patches are awesome. They're super, super awesome patches. I was like really thoroughly impressed with them. And awesome. Thank you, Buzz. All right. So, moving beyond that, so there's a question. Okay, so we'll head right through these. Okay, I'm not sure if you met him, but you might have run into him. So I'm wondering if you ever run into James Reeve from TFBTV and if he was as cocky in person as on his channel. So what I will say about the firearms industry, I've recently had this conversation. I know we have this conversation as well. I think the vast majority of the people on YouTube are very nice when you meet them in person. I think James, so I don't remember if I had like a deep discussion. I never had a deep discussion with him. I'm sure I said hello, this or that, or like when we were at SIG event, we photobombed his videos. From what I know, he's actually a really nice person. I don't have any negative feelings towards him. And for the vast majority of the gun tubers, I think the vast majority of the gun tubers are super chill, super down to earth. And a lot of them, they do put on a persona for camera because you want engagement. And some people, they engage by making shit up. Other people engage the audience by mispronouncing words. Others are just really cocky. They want people like feel the hatred because the reality is whether you hit a like button or a dislike button, it's just they're both equally important. and honestly being more controversial, and if you is probably worth more to the channel. So if somebody watches a video and like, okay, this is cool, if they hit, let's say they hit the like button, okay, that's cool, that's going to send some signals to YouTube. But if somebody hits the dislike button because you look like weirdo or you say something wrong and then they comment on it, that's even better for engagement. And YouTube's like, whoa, people are engaging with this video, so let's spread it out more. And one of them, so it's kind of like a funny thing is, I went to the Palmetto State Armory, and Stephen, you're actually involved in this. I went to the Palmetto State Armory event, and so but usually I think it was like in April. I go down there and I'm going through like booth to booth, and I see Black Rambo. I'm like, ooh, I never knew him personally, but before SHOT Show, like we were like Black Rambo's videos, there's like, as a gun person, you're like, oh my god, what is he doing? There's like a lot to hate and comment on. And he really rubbed Steven the wrong way. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I see him. Let me do this just to send Steven a message. I'm like, hey, Black Rambo, can we do a quick video? I got to send it to a friend. And he's like, hey, you know what? It'd be stupid of me not to want to do a collaboration. So here I am. I walk up to him. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Hey, what do you have here? And he was there with Panzer Arms as their spokesperson. That was the video I did with, actually, you can watch it on the channel. And like, I just like, hey, come in, like, and he's showing me the gun. He introduced himself. I introduced myself. He's like, oh, Slavic. Here, check out this AK. They just did this for me. And I was like a little bit in shock because on one hand, in his videos, he speaks Ebonics. Like, he's very, he has like a wankster or a gangster persona. And then you say hello to him. He speaks eloquent English like a true business professional. And then we start discussing things like the business side of it. He is freaking smart as hell. Like, he's actually brilliant. Like, he's like really, really smart dude. Very respectful. We were talking, like, we were having a conversation about the firearms industry with myself, him, and the CEO of the company that was importing them. And then like, okay, hey, let's do the video. And like, we do the video together. He gets into his groove, and he puts on the same persona that he does in the videos. And then he's like, oh wait, crap, forgot. We got to do the grill thing. And I'm like, after that, I walked away from the conversation. I'm like, holy hell, like, this guy's like, everything that you see about him on the TV show and everything you see him about him on the YouTube channel is like dramatized, and he's acting up to be this persona. In real life, he's an awesome dude. Now, you do have a couple of YouTubers out there, and I'm not going to name them, but some people can figure them out. I haven't had I personally have not had negative conversations with them. However, mutual people that I know. So there's one YouTuber. He's fairly big, fairly popular, does a lot of like the modern type stuff. Loves his flannel and stuff. And people like, so at SHOT Show, someone I know, like, usually when you bring a first timer or a newbie to SHOT Show, and like you're in the media room or you're talking to people, like you might be sitting down next to Iraq veteran 8888 or Brandon Herrera or like any of these guys. Hickok walks around, Military Arms Channel. Everyone's there, everyone's working, normal conversations. But for somebody who's a first timer, we're like, oh wow, here's like this person, and like we kind of put him on a pedestal. And like, but they're normal ass people, except a few that they do let their persona go to their head. So the one interaction with this influencer was like, somebody tried to say hello, and he was involved in a conversation with somebody else. This other person was trying to be respectful, so he didn't butt into the conversation. He was like, he saw that he was looking at them, and then so the influencer finished up his conversation. The other person said hello. He just looked at him that way, and he just left. Like, don't you know who I am? Or like, he was like beneath him. And that's the type of stuff that pisses me off. But as far as I know, so like James, he's actually a very nice guy. I see him talking to like regular people every day. and they generally are regular people. And I know, so I know, Steven, I know, like, me and you personally. So we're close friends with Jim from Backfire. And so he's a massive YouTube channel, 900,000 subs now. And here we are, child show, just having a normal lunch or normal conversations. And he never like lets it off. Like, he could be just like anybody else, but he doesn't let it go to his head. Shares a lot of his personal advice, a lot of strategies, and it's true good conversation. That is until somebody from a gun company comes over. It's like just completely cuts us off and be like, hey, can we send you this product or that product for a video? Which that rubbed me the wrong way. But what's your impression of like other influencers in this industry?
I think in general, YouTubers as a whole, you have educational YouTubers that can be successful. You have edutainment, which is a mixture that can be successful, and you have entertaining YouTubers that are just entertainment that can be successful. And then within entertainment, I kind of divide it into two smaller groups, which is you have people that it's like good entertainment, and then you have people that just act stupid or irresponsible within the entertainment space. And I think there's a bit of a gray area maybe in that space itself, or a fine line. My problem with Black Rambo isn't him as a person, it's that the content he puts out, I think, gives it portrays, I think, the gun community and in a negative light, or in a bad way, in an unsafe way. And I think he does it for personal gain overall, or to grow his brand. And I think that's against my principles. Whereas Demolition Ranch, you could argue is unsafe, but I would argue that he's very much entertainment, but it's still done in a way that doesn't look, you're not acting irresponsible, stupid, or giving a negative image.
Okay.
And man, that's talk about a touchy subject. But that's like, we're in principle, I'm like, okay, like, I don't have a problem with shooting. I think it would be great to shoot tons of tannerite and do all kinds of stuff, right? But do it in a way that's following good gun safety, not giving off a bad vibe. Or something like that. I'm probably not saying that right, but anyway, you can be successful in any one of those categories within YouTube. I think the fastest way to grow a channel is to use entertainment to grow.
Correct.
If you really want to grow a channel quickly, it appeals to the broader masses than just education. I mean, education itself is kind of like trying to swallow a spoonful of peanut butter. That's
So here's the argument on that I would make, and it kind of already shifted the conversation from the types of gun tubers. Well, from like I think like, well, I guess like on the personality side, have you had like anyone that you ran into who was a bigger YouTuber who was just like an outsized douchebag, or do you think like most of them are actually, no matter how they act online in their persona, in person, they're like normal people?
I think most of them are nice. I think Jim Harmer's super nice.
Yeah.
Companies may put him first in a conversation and cut us off, but I don't think he does when they approach him.
Yeah.
He's just a good person, I think. And I don't even agree with a lot of his recent content per se, but I really do like him and respect him, especially as a businessman.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a YouTuber per se, but Tim Kennedy there's a lot of drama around him, and I definitely don't agree with all his political beliefs or Second Amendment thoughts or opinions at all. And I'm not endorsing him, but he was one of those people that I think maybe people jump even too far down his throat and judge. When I met him, he was actually quite nice, very
you say that,
real,
I'm gonna grab something.
Very down to earth, and that kind of surprised me. I haven't really met any bad YouTubers in person that like treated me disrespectfully or negatively. I've ran into business owners that I don't think they were very respectful, or professional. That is actually, in my opinion, far more common.
Yes. Absolutely.
I've ran into some big, business owners. I'm like, wow, I don't even know if I would want to do content on any of your stuff with how kind of pathetic, for lack of a better term, they've acted.
Yeah.
Um,
So what I will say, so what's interesting point that you kind of brought up. So yeah, there's definitely types of different content. There's different types of YouTubers. So on one hand, we do have, let's say for example, like thematic type of YouTubers. So people who are going to be focused on precision rimfire. You have like Dark Lord of Optics. He's all about his optics, epic arms, and like you have hunting focused channels. You have people who are focused on the gun review side. And our goal, I think, is to provide education and provide a little bit of entertainment, I guess called like infotainment. But then I would argue that unless you have tens of thousands of videos, that is still what's not going to drive the majority of the views. And I would say so the biggest YouTubers, the ones that are generally either blowing up, is entertainment channels that just happen or entertainment channels that happen to have guns on them. And that's going to be your Black Rambo, that's going to be your Demolition Ranch. And I would even argue like someone like Kentucky Ballistic Scott. I mean, when he started, he was truly a gun channel. He was reviewing the guns. But now, as his stuff accelerated, it truly becomes about just blowing shit up and shooting big guns. And then, so, but I would say, like, even that's unsafe. Like, you can be shooting a gun that's going to blow up on you.
well,
And then I would say the other one is, oh crap! It just completely. Oh, like for example, like the AK guy Brandon Herrera. In the beginning, when his channel was starting, it was about primarily focused on the AK, the progress, the building side of it, and then it's like, okay, let's do gun meme reviews. And now it's like there's, I would say like it's not a gun channel, it's an entertainment channel that just like comments on shit. And there's nothing wrong with it. But I do think that kind of like one of the challenges is, and now we're talking, since we're talking about James Reeves here, I think a lot of the companies that we try to reach out to are companies that we would work with. They're like, oh, well, your channel is small, or like you're not like a massive 2 million sub channel or whatnot. And they were like, okay, well, you're beneath us. We don't even want to work with you. And these are the companies who've generally either never worked with content creators or they simply don't know any better. And they equate to, okay, well, if somebody has a bunch of subs, or it's a big broad channel, that's actually going to be good for conversion of sales. So one of the companies that when we were dealing with optics, I'm sure you know these guys. So Maven Optics, they came out with the Maven RS3, RS4, and these were actually like very feature-packed scopes. I tried reaching out in the past. Steven has tried reaching out in the past. Alex, a bunch of us, and they're like, no, it's like we're not gonna do that. We don't send out the stuff, not even on loan. Even though, like, hey, you know what? We have like the audiences for this. We cover the optics, you cover the hunting side. It's a we would be great audiences for this, but they didn't. And all of a sudden, I am watching for some reason a TFB TV video pops up on my recommended feed. Actually, I don't exactly know why. We're working with the Ruger Max 9, and Hop did a video on it. And then, like, the up next was James Reeve with, he was doing a video comparing ARs, and he had the Palmetto State Armory AR. And on top of the $400 Palmetto State Armory AR, he had a 2000 or $2,500 Maven RS4 scope on there. And the company chose to send him a scope because they thought it was going to be a good audience, that he has the right audience for their products. Yes, he was TFB TV is a massive channel, but it's, you're barking up the wrong tree, and then you're barking up the wrong influencer. Like, I would absolutely send if I was, let's say for example, if I had a red dot or a camera accessory, or like you're advertising short shorts or a movement watch, TFB TV would be a great channel to advertise that on. A regular handgun, a regular AR, stuff like that. But a precision rifle, no. A precision optic, no. Hunting stuff, no. You're barking up the wrong tree. But the company basically went that route because, well, it's TFB TV. So I think there are, however, a lot of companies out there that are waking up and realizing, okay, well, you know what? Let's partner with content creators who do have the core audience, and they would be the right people for it. So since we're kind of talking about in James Reeves, but no. So to answer your question, no, he's not cocky in person as far as I know. Oh, this is a great one. So any thoughts on RPR as a first long-range gun? Define long range. I would say, well, they have one for every caliber. I personally like the guns quite a bit. There's a good aftermarket for them. I know, Steven, you hated on Ruger at some point, then you kind of came back and you're like, okay with it. What's your take on it?
I don't. I've always seen the value that Ruger offers in the budget category for a gun that functions and that is accurate. My first ever precision rifle, my first ever probably truly accurate rifle, my first ever long range rifle was the Ruger Precision in 308. And I still have it to this day in its original configuration. And it's still one of my best shooting rifles. Yeah, I mean, the action's clunky, it's loud, it's a little grotesque. Yeah, it's a you don't like this. It's a cheaply made rifle, but it's effective, it's accurate, and it's and for the most part, they're reliable. I know there's been some Ruger American issues with magazines and things over the years, but I would definitely recommend it. Now, if you can afford something better, then take a step up. But if you can't, or if you're kind of in that ballpark and you want to be able to put more money into a scope, then it's a great option. Some people just dump all their money into the rifle and then they don't have any money for a scope. So if your budget is in such a way that it's like the best rifle you can get while still getting a good scope, then absolutely, I would recommend it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it for hunting. I wouldn't recommend it as a crossover rifle. It's heavy, it's big. It's not, in my opinion, good for anything but range use. But yeah. Yep. It's good.
I do know of a couple of people who are on the channel and they do hunt with them, but they hunt off of a ATV or like a quad. They have a mount for it, but that's completely different than lugging it. Some people do lug it. I don't understand how people would actually lug it. But no, so Steven, I don't feel insulted at all by when you say that it's a cheaply made gun. Absolutely. So Ruger does not use gunsmiths in a traditional sense. They engineer the precision into the manufacturing process, and then every single gun outside of their custom shop offerings are put together just by people who assemble the guns. That's as simple as that. But they are stupid accurate. I mean, if you're shooting the 300 PRCs out to 2,300 yards, right out of the box, no break-in, they're very well engineered for what they are. And there is a massive aftermarket, as Michael mentioned. So you can have it really, really nicely done as well. They have done various generational upgrades with them. And Anarchy Outdoors makes a bunch of big different accessories for it. And what's really cool about it, I mean, it's really, think about it, that's the gun that was made or launched the PRS gun world, because they brought features that you would typically find in much more expensive firearms down to a level that anybody can afford. So, I mean, the Ruger Precision Rifle, I mean, Savage, Elite Precision, every chassis gun out there that you can find now under $2,500 can say thank you to the Ruger Precision Rifle for kind of creating that category that's going to be there. But what I do appreciate about it is like, there's massive aftermarket on it, but for a first gun, I think it's going to be a great entry into it. I don't think the gun is necessarily going to hold you back if your goal is to shoot steel at longer distances. If you're going for absolute precision, well, okay, once you start going down and you no longer want 1-inch groups at 100 and now you want half-inch groups at 100, well, you're going to have to spend a bunch more money to kind of get those small diminishing returns. But the RPR is fantastic. Now, the prices on them did go up a little bit, especially during with the craze. But they started coming down. I would say if you want a little bit of an upgrade, take a look at the videos I did on the custom shop Ruger Precision Rifle in 6.5 Creed or 6 Creed. And I think for the money under $2,000, super accurate. I'm getting half MOA out of it. Comes with an aftermarket APA little bastard brake. Comes with a Trigger Tech trigger, which is fantastic. and the fit and finish on that gun is significantly improved. So I think that's an awesome gun to get into it. And more importantly, it's going to save you the money versus going to for a high-end gun that you can either spend on the scope, and then you can kind of figure out, hey, what's actually important to me? Because I think a lot of people, like on paper, they want a chassis style gun, but then after we shoot them, we're like, you know what, I actually prefer a target focused, let's say laminate or other type of polymer type stocks, and it's not going to be a massive mistake versus spending $4,000 or $5,000 on a high end gun. So no, it's not the nicest gun, but it's going to be a great starting gun.
Yeah, they started. I mean, they were the first to release a factory-produced, mass-produced precision rifle at sub $1,000 at the time, which was probably, I don't know, around 2015, 16. I don't know, somewhere in there, 15. I was one of those people. Who never. I really wasn't. I was just getting into bolt actions, and so maybe like 14, 15, something like that, and so. I was one of the people that bought their like Gen 1. I think that's what mine is a Gen 1. At that time, there wasn't a lot of aftermarket support like there is now. So the trigger had like, it had a little like kind of grindy feeling to it. And at that time, there wasn't like a lot of aftermarket, but now there is. I think it's a great gun. I think that the market has evolved though, to where I think there is definitely way more competition against the Ruger or the Ruger precision rifle now than there was when it first entered the scene. That was it, under $1,000 basically. I mean, you have the Savage 110, was it like bench rest or something like that, or something? It wasn't a chassis, it was like a bench rest style gun for like around that. But they didn't. That was it. And now, of course, you have a lot more. I mean, you have a Tikka. Was it TAC A1? That's like $1,500 now. I don't know. The prices have changed. Yeah. But that was more expensive back then for sure by a long shot. It might be similar to the Ruger Custom now. You didn't have, the Bergara and all that. That wasn't even on the scene. So things have. I mean, there's more competition. I feel like, but at the same time, yeah, it's a solid gun. I mean, they're accurate, and I don't think generally the more expensive a rifle gets, there's definitely diminishing returns, especially even on accuracy. I think people under like they don't talk about that. They like to act like just because you spend more, it's more accurate. But in reality, like a Ruger Precision might shoot far more accurately than a $3,000 or $6,000 rifle. Usually when I get more expensive guns, especially in the hunting space, it's actually just fit, feel, and function and finish, and like maybe durability. That's better, but not necessarily actually accuracy. Like that sometimes is even worse. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, with modern machining, making an accurate firearm is actually quite easy for these companies at a very affordable price. And I think it was Bill Ruger. I don't know if that's the owner back in the day, but like Ruger's always been good at basically seeing what somebody else has done and improving upon it and making it budget friendly. When they came out with, what was it, the Mark II, or is it the Hawkeye, the Mark II? Well, they had the Mark I. Right?
Are you talking about the hand? Are you talking about the handgun or the rifle?
No, the rifle. So okay, go ahead. So it's now the Hawkeye,
the M77.
But the M77 Mark I, when they came out with that, it was the Model 70 from Winchester was the rifleman's rifle. It was the best of the best, basically. That was modeled after the Mauser 98. Well, that was what everybody used. That was what is it? Isn't it in the Vietnam? That was the sniper rifle. Even was the M70 from Winchester at one point.
So I know there were Winchesters. Honestly, I'm not the person. I'm not gonna
either. Yeah, either way, they had the controlled round feed. Blah blah blah. Ruger, they went to push feed, cut corners, cut costs. It was expensive for the men to manufacture in I think the 60s, and so like pre-64 Model 70s are the ones that are really collectible. They're controlled round feed. Actually, now they've come full circle, and now they're making, in my opinion, really good at least actions again on their Model 70s. But
that's because it's not Winchester, it's Browning who's making those actions.
yeah, but either way, they went back to well, it's more of a hybrid controlled round feed technically, but like they went back to that direction. But Ruger came in and was like, well, we can make basically the same rifle, but at even maybe a cheaper price. And they were able to make them affordable by making them with investment casting instead of machining all these parts and like on a lathe and they investment cast in them. And so Ruger's always been good though at doing things like that to bring the consumer what they want at a good price.
That kind of goes back to where, so I have a close relationship with Ruger. It's like I know DCOs. I mean, they're one of the companies that's out there. I would say none of her guns are like super sexy in terms of fit and finish. No, the fit and finish on them is generally not, I would say it's good. It's not amazing. It's not great. However, the people at the company all care about gun owners. So it goes back to our quote: "We make rugged and reliable firearms for responsible gun owners." They want to get their guns into as many people's hands as possible, and they stand behind their products. I mean, you can't fault them for that. And honestly, like the cool thing is, I'd say out of all the companies, Ruger is the one company they love having such a wide aftermarket, and they even feature a lot of those aftermarket parts on their own website, shopruger.com. So, I mean, they're out there. Like, so for example, like Catalyst Arms, they make products for them. They make the bolt knob and the bolt handles. They make the bolt knobs. The extended magazine release, you were able to pick them up on shopruger.com, which is pretty cool because you don't see Savage doing that all that often. Or like, imagine if Remington did that. And then as I would say, what really happened was as Remington's quality started going downhill and the RPR came out, Ruger replaced Remington in that category, and Savage is just basically Savage.
Wait, what did you just say? You said
no, so
Ruger
basically
placed the 700 or 783, or are you saying that whole space?
I would say so. Kind of like if somebody was getting into precision rifles, or like somebody wanted to go into longer range shooting, and somebody was looking for a bolt gun, whether it's for hunting or target shooting or whatnot, the advice was you go get a Remington 700, and if you can't afford a 700, you go get a Savage Model 10 or 110. And as Remington's quality control went down and as they became garbage, and Ruger started upping their game with the RPRs, then the Americans, in essence, they have replaced a lot of the stuff that Remington did with the 700. Kind of like in that, so now the recommendation is no longer Remington 700 and Savage Model 10. It's going to be, let's say, Savage 110, Ruger American, Ruger Precision, Tikkas, Bergaras, and others. But they've done a decent job. I mean, like, for the money. And if you look at the statistics of what actually sells out there, they have a lot of shelf space because people buy the guns. There's aftermarket for them. So you can't fault them for that.
Well, they're American made too.
American made.
I mean, there are people,
And here's the kicker. There's no Chinese metal in there. So what people don't realize is that Ruger actually controls their own foundries. They have foundries. So if they ever need metal, they can do it themselves. They do everything in-house. They on the guns.
Yeah. And I'm a fan of Howa. I think the market's so competitive now. It's not like it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It's constantly evolving, and I think the companies that are going to continue to do the best are the ones that are going to keep up with that, though, too. Like I think Remington, like people are like, well, you just hate on Remington, and I'm like, well, I don't know. They've changed hands. They've gone bankrupt so much I can't keep track. But they now supposedly they're going to have too many triggers in their 700, which if I haven't seen those yet. But that's what they're saying. And if that's the case, then that is a massive step in the right direction. And kudos to them. I respect that. Hopefully that's true. But like people are like, well, the ADL never had a floor plate. It's the entry level 700. And so like it's acceptable. And I'm like, well, that's like saying crap's acceptable because it's always been crap. Like the market's progressed. They fell behind. They need to get rid of that or modify it a long time ago, and they haven't. So just because they've always done it doesn't mean it's good now. And so anyway, I'm going to start going crazy on that. Stephen will, well, you know what? I love you, so I won't talk too much crap. And I feel bad
Even
for you since you're
even
since
though
you're from the Communist Republic of Canada. Well, but I also won't value your opinion that much because that's where you're from, and I know you like those things that are from Europe, because you guys still pay homage to the Queen and it's the motherland basically. But hey, it's all good.
um I
Steve. At least Japan had the balls to fight somebody in their lifetime, not like Canada that basically
so
just,
oh
you know,
so this is what's interesting and peculiar is like how Steven I mean, he's a fan of Howa. I think Howa makes a damn good rifle. I think their biggest issue in the United States is their distributor here, Legacy Sports, is doing an atrocious job. And they're still very much old minded and they want free labor. Um, so
well,
go ahead.
Japan in general, like aside from Legacy Sports, even is a country that they do have a little. In some ways, it's respectable. They have a little bit different principles or whatnot than we do. And so like if they make something and it's not broken, they don't like to change it or fix it. Americans, I feel like, aren't that way at all, which it's like a strength and it's a good thing and a bad thing. But
Mhm.
with us, I mean, with them, it's the same way. It's a good thing and a bad thing. The M1500, the Model 1500, how is a great solid action receiver
Yeah,
rifle, blah blah blah. The look, my newer videos where I'm doing comparisons with them are probably a little bit more objective than my older ones, and that wasn't intentional. It's just I'm growing, I'm learning too, and I'm trying to be more objective. And I have more experience now too with other manufacturers. I've handled more rifles. Like what I've told Legacy Sports and what I would tell Howa if I could talk to somebody in Japan is, look, just polish your bolt, make it more like a Bergara, where it's smoother, like a Bergara out of the box, and make your trigger truly user adjustable, not where you got to like kind of remove some
but
epoxy and adjust it
but
or trim a
that's a
spring.
legacy. Yeah, so this is actually I'm glad you brought that up because the guns that we get in the United States from Howa. So when you go on Howa's website, you look at the Howa material, they're all about, hey, these triggers are user adjustable. They are everywhere else, except when the guns come in. Legacy Sports, the importer, they put white goop over the adjustment screw so
Mm-hmm.
that you have to remove it in order to do it. So that's not actually a Howa issue. That's a
It
Legacy Sports.
it
And
still wouldn't adjust, I don't think, as low as some of the other competitors on the market. Because I've adjusted them with this set screw
yeah,
without trimming or replacing the spring. You know what? A better move would just make it to where you can adjust it even like other triggers where you're not removing it from the stock. Like I'm sure that how it basically could do things or maybe work with Legacy Sport. That's their two weaknesses: the smoothness of their action out of the box and their trigger adjustment, at least in the United States, like you're saying, are, in my opinion, their two biggest weaknesses. Like they've expanded their product line massively in the United States through Legacy Sports, where they drop them in different chassis and
yeah.
that's all. It's not Howa doing that. It's Legacy Sports dropping them in all these different chassis and stocks and things. So their product line is good, and their marketing's been weak, and for the reasons you said, they don't really, in the past at least, they didn't really want to pay a lot for marketing. That's been a long road for them to market in the United States, to be competitive with like Ruger or Savage
Mhm.
or Tika or Bergara, things like that. But anyway,
Yeah, no. So I mean, like there's a lot to love about Howa, and I think even a lot of people during those Remington heydays, they're saying, "Hey, but if you're not opposed to a foreign-made gun, definitely take a look at the Howas." The only thing I'd add to what you said as one of the weaknesses is the magazine. So even like with the Oryx mags, they don't work with AICS pattern magazine in a lot of the cases. You need to have like the specialty MDT mags for that particular action. Um, I believe there's one of them. And then some of her barrels, I think the barrels that come on your typical gun, the standard contour one, is a little thin for, at least for my preference. I know they have like barrels that are like carbon fiber ones for hunting, but like your standard range type gun could probably be a little bit thicker.
They've gone all over the place. I think they've looked at like how many sales have they made and kind of let that dictate maybe what to make. And I don't know the back end data on that from their perspective. I know that like when legacy, and that's legacy sports, I'm sure, influencing those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So like yes, most of their hunting rifles now with a regular barrel, a metal barrel, are threaded 1/2 by 28 because there's not enough real estate on the end to thread it 5/8 by 24, and so you have to get a thread adapter. I've actually brought that up to Legacy Sports. From a hunting standpoint, there's pros and cons to that. Like light contour are actually kind of good for hunting. They're still, in every case, I've tested them extremely accurate. Now they do have carbon fiber wrap barrels. Those are 5/8 by 24. They do have, I think they're like number 4, number 5 contour barrels on like the TSPX. Those are one. So I don't know. They've had a lot of variations from year to year. It's kind of changed. I don't really know what to say about that. I understand what you're saying. I think that their strength is they put out a very consistent product. I know people have had problems with accuracy, but I've had like 20 of these come through I've a lot of shooting behind them. I've never had one that it wasn't easy for me to get sub MOA groups out of, unlike Bergara or unlike some other manufacturers out there where I've struggled from time to time. And so I do still stand behind everything I've ever said good about them, because at the end of the day, they've done well when I've tested them. As far as like the magazines, like that's like those. So they've done stocks with stocky stocks, and I think that's out of Florida. They have mag conversions on some of those. I don't think those aren't AICS. They do have like the APC chassis. I think that I have one. I should know. I think you can use AICS. So they have like a lot of, and the TSPX. So they have like ones that I think are different, but that's more of a like a Legacy Sports picking what stock or chassis probably than like a Howa issue in and of itself. But obviously, like when people refer to it, they're just referring to Howa. I think all those MDT Oryx chassis have had those issues, right? With magazine being picky with certain magazines, or no?
Just
So why?
just the Howa.
That's an MDT chassis. So enlighten me.
So at the bottom of the action, apparently there's something that's that Howa did that it wouldn't function with AICS pattern magazines. I think there's like a small portion in there. So I think there were some people who did convert them, but that's why so the Oryx chassis is available for a bunch of other different guns. And let's say, for example, 308, 65s and all those, they do use AICS pattern magazines from others, but not the Howa one. The Howa one in particular had to use the specific magazines that were there.
Do you know if it was mini action or long action or short? Because I know their mini actions are just
the standard action. Mini actions, I don't know.
Yeah. So by standard, you mean short?
Yeah, standard short action.
Yeah. So, because I know they use spacers and their mini. How it does, like they just use a spacer system. They don't make like a specific mini action, like a lot of manufacturers don't. But they do have that. It's kind of cool. The super light, which I'm just releasing videos on and stuff. It has a actual different action, which I didn't even know. I actually said the wrong information originally. So they actually made an action that's like between a short and a mini or something weird like that. It's not actually a short. It's slimmed down and it's smaller. And that is the lightest factory produced rifle on the market. Centerfire rifle. Wow. That's bolt action centerfire, 4 pounds, 7 ounces. One guy started World War III with me because he was saying that it was 7 pounds, 4.7 pounds, not 4 pounds, 7 ounces. And I was like, well, for one, kind of who cares in a way. But then for two, I was like, okay, well, did you weigh it without the Picatinny scope base that usually comes on it? And of course, he had weighed it with it. So I'm assuming that was the difference. Because look, at wrong or right, they give you the weight of the rifle without the scope base. And so with the scope base, that was probably, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that's where his weight was different than their weight. But I personally am not a person that goes crazy over ounces. So I tend to be a little indifferent. Like, it just doesn't bother me. Yeah. But his was out of principle. He felt like it was false advertising, and maybe it is. because I didn't take mine off and weigh it and all that. So maybe,
Well,
maybe it is
what's
false
actually interesting.
advertising.
So generally the people who say, well, you should absolutely care about the ounces are people who are they're going to say, well, you're not walking with it in the woods or in this, but you actually do. And like when you actually pack these guns, you go on multi-day hunts where you're tracking in the middle of nowhere. So if it doesn't make that much of a difference to you, it's and I guess when you're going that light anyway, I mean, is an extra ounce or two going to make that much of a difference?
The with all my health problems, which we don't need to get into, and the more out of shape I am, and the fatter I am, which I'm the fattest I've ever been by a long shot right now, the more I care about ounces. But see, most people, even people in the United States that are in good shape and much thinner than me, they get all cut up in the ounces of all their gear, not just their gun, but like all their backpack hunting gear, all their hunting gear, all of it. And backpackers do this. And it's like, dude, you do realize, and I'm saying this as a hypocrite, but you do realize, although I don't necessarily get all bent out of shape in ounces, so that's maybe where I'm not as much a hypocrite in some way. Who cares? But anyway, here's the thing: like people like freak out over 2 ounces. These hunters I know, and it's like you do realize you could literally go to the gym, get mental, physical, and emotional well-being from working out as a side effect. You could lose weight way more than 2 ounces, and at the same time improve your muscular endurance and your cardio. But they would rather obsess over spending an extra $3,000 to save 2 ounces and then sit at a computer to make that extra $3,000. So it's literally stupid. Like, let's be honest, it's stupid logic. Like is a lighter rifle generally a little bit more comfortable? Am I moving more to ultralight stuff hunting in the backcountry? Yeah, I kind of have. Like I've had the money last year. I am getting shit. Like if you have the money and it's not, but like at the same time, I totally understand that like freaking out over a couple ounces is kind of stupid. Like just go to and lose 10 pounds and be in better shape, and those 2 ounces aren't going to matter, and you probably save yourself $3,000 if you're an average hunter, or average Western hunter.
I wonder if someone's done a correlation study between the people who care about ounces versus
and their weight
and their weight.
Well, I'm sure. Like most of the guys I know that obsess about their hunting weight with their gear tend to be as big or bigger than me even. And sometimes it's skinny guys. They're just really, and you know what? It's okay. In a way, if maybe they just like to nerd out on it. Some people are just that way.
Absolutely.
But if you're gonna, if it's like a seriously like a huge deal, like a hunt breaking deal, like it's much better for you just go to the gym and work out a little bit than to obsess. And especially if you don't have the money. Like if I wasn't doing my channel, my gun channel, or I didn't have the money and there wasn't like a reason why, it would be insanity for me to spend the money I have, because ironic to popular opinion, most stuff I buy on gun that's, even 6 ounces less than another gun, when I could just go to the gym and benefit my cardio-muscular endurance. And overall I'm going to be carrying less weight. I'm probably going to do better in the field than spending all that money and saving a couple ounces. I think, like, do I want to be lugging around a Ruger American at 9,200 feet? Absolutely not. Not only
Ruger Precision.
Ruger Precision, excuse me. Not only because, well, not only that, but like all the little components collect a lot of dirt and dust and debris and blah, blah, blah. And the metal gets cold when you touch it. And it tends to be real loud when it's hitting sticks compared to like a traditional stock. And there's like so many other things. And like some people love hunting with what's the SIG chassis rifle? It's one of the lightest ones on the market. So those are kind of made for hunting in a way compared to like other chassis rifles. And so like, I get it. Like, but like, generalization is I don't want to hunt with a chassis for a lot of reasons. Some people really like it. There are some chassis that are like the Fix by Q. That's kind of that's such a light, streamlined rifle. I get it. If you wanted to hunt with it, you certainly could, because it's so light, it's so compact. Although it's only available, I think, in a couple calibers, so it might not be appropriate for like something like elk or something at longer distances. Did my camera just go off?
No, you're good. You're good.
My whole computer just went black for a second, so I wasn't sure what happened.
We can still see him. So it's actually. But anyway, are you saying that the only people who really care about the minutia are gun tubers and competitors. Because I would say, okay, you know what? Like the only people that I know like that need to make a weight, like they needed to be precise, is if you're a competitor and your rifle needs to fit a specific weight category, but you're trying to get the most out of it. But generally speaking, even the guys who are doing those matches, they're not looking for the lightest gun. They're looking for the biggest gun that can fit that particular bracket, because obviously the lighter the gun is, you're going to feel the recoil a lot more on that to begin with. So it's like,
Some people are just, I mean, Americans are bored sometimes and well off, and so they just create problems or they like to nerd out on stuff. So I don't know that I'm not going to say that all people that obsess over this or that are certain way or it's a particular reason, because there's a lot of different variations or reasons for it.
but
But
it's true
I
though.
think that like,
It's true though. Specs do sell stuff. It's like it does something a little bit better. So like, okay, the watch community, it's like, well, this watch is gonna be accurate down to 1 second every day. The other one is down to 5 seconds every day.
oh, for
And
marketing, from a marketing standpoint, is that kind of
from
where you were going?
I would
My
say, yeah,
brain's
like
kind of all scattered.
I would say
Okay,
like,
so
well,
yeah. Mm.
the fanboys and the marketing components. So somebody, let's say for example, who was it that came out? Like, so the general industry accuracy guarantee is 1 inch or like 1 MOA at 100 yards. And that's generally going to be for most of the gun companies, except who was it that came out with the 0.75 inch accuracy guarantee? That wasn't Bergar. Was that Christensen, or was that, who was it? Or was it Springfield? That was the 0.75 inch accuracy guarantee,
I don't
0.75
know.
MOA accuracy guarantee. And I'm like, okay, well, that's purely to say that's going to be for someone who's shopping and be like, well, this one company promises one, this other company promises another. And then you have companies, for example, like Rugers are well known to be 1 MOA or better guns, but they don't have an accuracy guarantee anywhere on the guns. But it's
Well,
going to be a good.
yeah, we're all products of marketing from the time we're born. You know, like it's just insane. Like, and it's kind of just how things work. And human nature is like we have to see progress to have hope, and if we don't have hope, we get depressed. And
Well,
so, like,
as
we
gun
have to see progress. And so,
as
if we can sell, go
as
ahead.
gun tubers, we're not helping that situation.
No, it's
Because you're marketing.
part of the system. We're part of it. Now, I do hope to bring some sort of like objective information and
Yes.
value. And some of it's entertainment. Like I'm going towards this where basically my shorts are for entertainment, and then my longs are more for for the education. Where shorts sometimes edutainment in a way can be if you're paying attention to detail. Some of them have an educational aspect to them, but and there's uh, entertainment isn't all bad. It serves a purpose. We need entertainment to get through the day, and it's not all bad. But yeah, I think that we're definitely part of the machine. I'm hoping that I'm bringing objective value and information. Like if you're looking at 6 different rifles, maybe this is the one that would fit your purpose and your budget the best out of them. And so I'm helping solve a problem for you in a way, or at
Yeah.
least guiding you. But
So,
that's kind of where I've evolved. At the start, it was just I want to film my hunting for fun for myself
so,
and my family.
so
But
my thing with this, and part of the reason, one of my goals for the YouTube channel is to. So anytime I'm doing a video, my goal is, okay, whatever the product is. So here I'm holding the Arkin SH4J Gen 2. And you're going to have people who are basically going to say, wow, this is like the best thing since sliced bread. And then you're going to have other people say, oh, Arkin, it's a piece of shit. So my goal with it is, it's okay, well, if you're looking at the product, I'm going to present information. I'm going to tell you what I think. But my goal is to present it in such a way that if you are the ideal person for this product, you're going to be able to identify that and you're going to know practically what you need. And I'm one of these types of people. Like, I like to go for practical. I don't believe in having to spend more money than you have to. And depending on your goals, I mean, sometimes good enough is good enough. So let's say, for example, even looking at these Arkin scopes, yes, I do have quite a few Arkans that I've played with that were literally dead on arrival, and playing with this Arkan SH4J, I realized that my more expensive Arkan EP5, it has issues. The parallax, the scope doesn't parallax, it doesn't focus past 700 yards. And I wouldn't realize it till I looked at the other one because it's capable of it. I just basically assumed, well, this is just basically what they are. And for the price point, that's what it is. So while Dark Lord of Optics or somebody who is competing with them, they're going to, let's say, for example, look down at this product. I'm looking from the perspective, okay, look, if you're on a budget and realistically you're not going to shoot past 300 yards, generally you're not going to have any issues with the scope, because even if the parallax is off, for the most part, you'll be able to focus down out to 300-400 yards. And if the tracking is off, well, at that point, the tracking really doesn't matter that much. So as long as it can hold 0, you're okay. Or just don't move it off of 0. And, well, that's for the tracking. Or as long as it doesn't lose 0 when you're shooting it, it's sometimes is good enough. And sometimes that's also, like, I think one of the issues that one of the rabbit holes we go down is, and often forget, we might be discussing a product and it's a $1,500 rifle or a $2,000 scope or whatnot. And to us, so let's say, for example, a tracked optic, so let's say tracked toric, $1,500, we say it's an incredible value. And it is an incredible value when you're comparing it to, let's say, $2,000 or $3,000 scopes, because you're getting 95% of that same quality and features at 50% of the budget. However, the vast majority of gun owners, they're looking like, wow, $1,500 per scope, that's a ton of money. And it is. So really that's,
No, I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, and everything's relative, and we're all like, and we all have different budgets, right? And different opinions. It's not, I don't know that everybody's all wrong. Like I say, I wouldn't choose a heavy rifle, but I also wouldn't necessarily recommend everybody spend tons of money to save a couple ounces on a rifle when they could just get in shape. That's I think objectively true to some degree. At the same time, if I have the Howa Superlight next to a Howa HS Precision, and there's a 3-pound difference, and I know I'm probably not going to shoot past 300 yards on a deer at 9,000 feet, I'm probably going to pick the lighter one, right? I mean, why not if I have it? It's funny, there was a little drama. It looked like a comment even got deleted. It was kind of funny. Like, I don't know. It was kind of funny. It looks like we started some drama.
Who posted a good comment and then removed it?
It looked like it. I don't know. It like appeared, but then there was and it looked like Northman uses a SIG cross, which, like I said, and a lot of guys, there's some, I think it's Born and Raised Outdoors is sponsored by them. That's all they use in all their hunting videos, I think, is a SIG cross. They're fantastic hunters. Like, they like it. That's great.
Sorry. So Nick just posted a comment, round as a shape, embrace dad bod. And there's just something brought up. So, and Steven, you're now basically saying about your shape. And I just remember on the tirade rampage you went off at SHOT Show when we were at the Airbnb
about fat people or something.
Yes.
Yeah. I see I struck a nerve with not Boom Country.
That's
our
right.
Good friend. No. Well, that one disappeared too, didn't it? Oh no, Northwest Gun. You're bitching about an RPR. My Files rifle is 21 pounds. All I'm going to say to you, I'm not going to get in the drama. I'm going to tell you this. Would you want to carry a Ruger precision rifle at 9,200 feet, 6 to 9 miles a day for 10 days in a row? Yes or no? There's your answer. I guarantee you're not going to.
So here's what you missed from there is for field matches. So I mean, I think he kind of is getting to your point on that. So it's the people who are complaining about the weight. Meanwhile, like for match guns or like for bigger guns, I mean, they're going to be adding a bunch more weight to the gun. So I don't think you're wrong. I think he's actually agreeing with you on there.
Is it? I don't. Yes. I guess I'm misunderstanding it. I will say this: PR or was it Hunter NRL? And look, I don't compete. I'm not going to say I do right now.
There is no hunting.
I don't know. The Hunter NRL is not even remotely close to actual like a hunting rifle anymore. Like I feel like I wish they actually had a super, like, I don't know how they would do it though, because there's always going to be somebody pushing the line. when it comes to competition, I would do the same thing. I'm going to push the line, right? And so that's going to happen no matter what. But I wish they had like some way that people couldn't, because I have tons of rifles that are great hunting rifles, but they still aren't like pushing that line with the current rules of Hunter NRL. But Hunter NRL, I mean, I look at these rifles and I hear about them. I have friends that shoot it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, if you were like owned a private ranch and you're driving out and going to use it to shoot, or you're walking to a tree stand 100 yards away, but most of these people, it's like it's not even close to what a real
It's a
hunting rifle
game
is for
with
most
different
hunters.
rules. It's a game
Exactly.
with different rules. So I mean, let's put it this way. So like before hurting my wrist, and I have tendonitis that's actually acting up pretty bad. But prior to that, I shot USPSA every weekend, and I would shoot everything from local to national matches. And so USPSA, handgun matches, it stands for United States Practical Shooting Association. There's absolutely nothing practical about USPSA. And same thing, well, you should go shoot IDPA, the International Defensive Pistol Association. There's nothing about that too. They're games with rules, and they're games with different rules. They might try to mimic something, but anytime it's a game, anytime it's a match, there people will want a game, and that's why. Okay, so even if somebody has a, let's say, PRS production division, it's going to be okay. Well, what's the best gun we can do it? And there are manufacturers who legit created a gun to one up somebody else in that game, aka Bruger Custom Shop RPR, the Havoc Hit Pro. Like, these are guns that are meant for games. Um,
Yeah, and
it's
I would do the same thing. Like I don't believe in cheating, but I believe in doing the best you can, and I'm competitive, or at least I was. And so like
yeah,
I would do the same thing. Um,
yeah.
it's
So
fun.
basically,
There was
kind
some
of with it.
comments.
So, I say so, kind of like along the same line. So like, yeah, I know Travis when he did NRL Hunter, like they're trying to make it a more accessible match, trying to make it more practical than PRS matches. It's a game with different rules. That's all it is.
Arkin
Uh,
is okay. Northman's commenting about Arkin. You know I have issues with Arkin kind of, or opinions. I won't be as unprofessional I was in the comment section was that a week or two ago. I kind of went off in the comment
Arkin is
section.
okay, but box test was terrible, but repeatable. The glass was not that good past 400. Which one was it? So, I mean, that's the thing with Arkins. They are very, I haven't had two scopes which were identical. And so, Alex, so these are his scopes, the EPL4 and the SH4J.
Mm.
These are really good examples of them. So, they're definitely nice. We actually had an interesting conversation about this. So what you're saying is the box test was terrible but repeatable. So by that, if you're talking about like tracking accuracy, if you talk to somebody like Ilya, Dark Lord of Optics, he says that actually, as long as it's repeatable, that's more important than the absolute tracking test. Because it just needs to be repeatable. And for this price point, I mean, let's put it this way: like every scope is gonna be fairly bad in one way or another. The image quality, I think, is actually not bad. So even with this broken, not parallaxy EP5, it was out. It was fine out to 800 yards or so. I would also say it depends on what you need to see. Do you need to see individual bullet holes on paper at 400, or do you just need to be able to see a 1 MOA 4-inch steel plate at 400 yards? Because with these, you're easily going to be able to do it. With all of these, I was able to, well, not less so with the EP5, but at 645 yards, the SH4J was just fine to see bullet impacts on a freshly painted piece of steel. They fit a particular purpose as long as people don't put them up on a pedestal and basically kind of say, well, this is better than something else. Well,
The,
go ahead.
yeah, I have,
No,
I
but
have feelings and I have objective
Arkin
thoughts, but
Arkin has massive quality control issues. They do have massive customer service issues. And for most people, I would not recommend Arkin versus an equivalent Vortex or whatnot. But if you have the ability to determine whether your scope is good or not, and you want to be different, you want to be a contrarian, you want to be eclectic, then right now Arkin kind of fits that category. Although they become as popular as they have, that you really need to be like an Element Optics fanboy in because Arkin is just too popular. It's too
what
mainstream now.
when you got so the EPL4, what do you think of the eye relief and the eye
It's
box on that?
horrible. Well, no, okay. So with all the Arkans, the eye box design is horrible. The eye box is really shitty. The
And
EPL. Go ahead.
go ahead. I'm just kidding. And so the eye relief I think was pretty short on it too. I have it.
I relief is on
Um,
the shorter side. It's about 3.5 inches. So I wouldn't put it on a 50
Not
BMG, but
horrible, but yeah. So,
and
but
then
this
the
is
eye
very
box is
narrow,
eye box.
very narrow, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, and that scope was designed kind of for hunting. I mean,
Yes.
that's
Well, so okay, so that's the other thing with the damn scope. When the EPL line came out, they marketed it as, "Hey, this is a lightweight hunting version of our EP5," and they came out with the regular crosshair type reticle for it. And on the website, so when you go on there, here, actually, I'll just pull it up.
I ordered one full price from their website, which is
So, by the
brings
way,
up another problem.
if you want to support the channel, go to luxgun.com. That is our site. Go get the patches, and we have stickers there as well. All right, Arcan Optics.
So yeah, I ordered the EPL4. It showed in stock on their website. 6 months later, I still hadn't gotten the scope, and so I'd reached out to them many times for like, hey, can I get a discount? Can I get a loan? Can I block? And they never followed through on anything. So then I ordered one full price, said it was in stock. 6 months later, literally like 6 months later, I'm not 100% sure on the exact amount of time, but it was about 6 months later. I called them up, or I think I ended up emailing them, and they found out who I was. And the next day, the scope was in the mail. But I'm like, that's unacceptable. Like that's pathetic. Like that's insane. Like that's terrible. If I was a hunter and I ordered the scope and I needed it for this fall and I need time to sight in my rifle, like I can't depend on that. That's terrible. Their ability to deliver product has been disgraceful. The owner or one of the owners, when I met him, it was pathetic. We'll just leave it at that. Like just zero communication or professionalism. Anyway, and then like the scope itself, very narrow eye box, and if it's designed for hunting, like acquiring your sight picture under stress and adverse conditions is pretty important. And if you have a really narrow eye box, that is kind of a significant issue for a lot of people, especially if you're not super well practiced or don't shoot a lot. And I think the glasses, yeah, it's okay, but like I feel like they hit the market, they blew up, they did, and then like a lot of companies, they just kind of fell apart.
Growing pains.
Yeah, but I think it's more catastrophic than the normal average growing pains with them. From it's been how many years and they're still not delivering product, like barely. I mean, like they're still having a lot of issues. I feel
So
like
they have changed OEMs a number of times, so that definitely does bring it up.
that's not my problem as a
No,
consumer.
it's
That's not
not.
my problem.
No.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's not. I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just explaining what
okay.
the issues that they're running into. I think they're getting a lot better, but part of the issue that they had was they absolutely. I don't believe they were expecting this type of a demand. And so, without getting into the specifics on it, to air the dirty laundry, but the way that Arkin grew was by partnering with certain influencers. They paid him a very heavy commission. And no wonder when you pay somebody a very heavy commission, the product is going to be promoted very, very heavily. And the reason why it's dropped off, I think this is actually a great example. So Arkin giveth, and Arkin have taken away. So you see basically how you have this order coupon code, save 25%, save 25%, etc. So when somebody uses it, so let's say, for example, somebody watches one of our videos, they go to Arkin. Well, we don't put Arkin affiliate codes in it. So let's say, for
Yeah,
example, you watch
yeah.
somebody's video with Arkin affiliate code and you purchase the scope, that affiliate would get a sizable commission. And but what they did was they changed it so that if anybody uses another coupon code, let's say, for example, Arkin is running a sale, save 25%. that affiliate. So let's say, for example, you watch that affiliate's videos, you went on their website, you purchased it, and you use the Arkin coupon code. That affiliate no longer gets that commission. So when they started playing with that game, they're like, and Arkin always runs a coupon code right now on their website. So it's pissed off a lot of influencers who are no longer necessarily promoting the product as heavily as they did in the past, because they were used to getting that commission check. But now, let's say, for example, they drive the traffic to Arkin's website, and if Arkin runs a coupon code, well, they basically just cut out that affiliate from their commission.
That happens a lot to me with a different brand I work with. Not with optics or anything. It's totally different, but
Okay.
it happens a decent amount with me.
Yeah. No. So basically, on the topic of the EPL4, trying to find out where it was, but basically here we're like, okay, everything here is about our lightweight hunter. Oh, here it is. So the EPL is our lightweight hunter version of the EP Extreme Precision series. A refined hunter is built on a streamlined 30 mil tube and reduces overall weight. So that's cool and everything. But so even though it seems like this was meant to be a hunting scope, but now when you scroll up, they added mill. So they had mill and MOA, but not only do you have the hunting reticle, which is this guy, they then added back the regular precision rifle reticle, this one. So I guess now it's for everybody. It's not, I don't know if it's really meant to be hunting scope, or Arkin as a company, all of our scopes were like heavy as bricks. So the SH4 Gen 2 was 36 ounces. So this guy's 36 ounces. The EP5 is 39 ounces. So they were like class leading in terms of weight. So the new ones, the EPL4, this is 25 and a half ounces. So it's in the ballpark, but it's significantly lighter than Arkin's own other scopes.
Yeah, that's not given its feature set. That's not that heavy. That's not heavy for its feature set. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look at companies like Tracked Optics, and they have done a good job at creating scopes that are very made for specific use very well, with the correct features and with high quality components. And they have grown at a pace that they are able to, I feel like, deliver on what they say they can deliver on, from what I've seen. So I've been fairly impressed with them recently. I think that, unfortunately, they don't get as noticed as much. They didn't bust on the scene like Arkin did. But I don't think they're trying to make the cheapest scope out there. They're trying to make the best scope for the best scope for the money, maybe in some cases, but a very well made scope.
Yes,
I'm really impressed with them.
Track scopes are very, very well made. But so one of the reasons, so Tracked, I do have an issue with. Let's put this: they could be hitting it out of the ballpark if they wanted to, but because they're direct to consumer and they're not, I would say they're sending out plenty of free product to content creators, but there is little benefit longer term for the content creator to keep promoting the product, if that makes sense. And there's not a lot of ways for content creators to monetize those views, etc.
Well, some companies are like really good at marketing, like they're marketing companies that make products, and then some companies are companies that make products, but they're not like a marketing company. And so or their strengths, you know what I mean? Like Vortex, their joke is, they were a marketing company that started making scopes. That's the joke with Vortex. Yeah. But like that, there's usually, like a weakness there, right? Like some companies are really good at marketing, not so good at the product itself, and then others are really good at the product, not so good at marketing. Or like you have really these OEMs, obviously they don't really do any marketing in China and Japan and all that. They're just selling to, a company that's selling.
Yeah. All right, Northman. So your comment, SH4 Gen 2s, Steel plates, brown on brown, kind of a hunting practice setup. I was not able to see clearly at 560 to 640. Took an insane amount of time and ammo to make a dope. You got a bad sample. That's what it is. You got a bad sample. Send it back.
And repeatability is important, but if you're switching guns a lot, I would argue that it's still good. It's still important that it's accurate, like MOA or mil, because you're using a ballistic calculator. You might be swapping a bunch of. You might, if you're doing different guns out to 1,000 yards in one day, it's nice to be able to have that consistency between from scope to scope, or you know what I mean.
So, Mr. Pursuit of Accuracy, wait, you don't carry your SRO'd Shadow 2? No, I do not. So this is actually the funniest part. So I started competing with 1911s, then went to a 2011. That got too heavy. I went back down to 9. I picked up at a Shadow 1 custom by a CZ custom shop at that time. And was a great gun. But when I moved from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, I swore to myself, well, I love 1911s. I think a 1911 is God's gift to Earth. I love 1911s. I'm like, okay, I'm going to carry a 1911 every single day. And then I carried it for one day. I'm like, oh, screw this. This is way too heavy. I went down to an HKP7 PSP because I needed to be a little bit eclectic. That was still too heavy. I'm like, okay, fine. I go down to my East German Makarov. That was still too heavy. Right now, my carry gun is I use either a Ruger LCP2 or a Ruger LCP Max. Because, like, you know what? Like, I like pocket carry. It's the best thing for me at that point. I hate sometimes I don't wear a heavy belt. So being able to stick a gun in my pocket is going to be great. So I think in that example, I think it's more critical for that, but I don't necessarily carry the LCP because of the weight, but rather the size, and it fits into my pockets really well. But no, the 1911 was just too nuts. And I think, like, when it comes to hunting, it's like there's, whether if I went, let's say, for example, to a SIG P365, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference.
It's better to have a gun than you will. It's always, let's see, what's the saying? Like, when it comes to pistols and carrying, like, it does no good in your glove box. It does no good on your nightstand if you're not carrying it. And oftentimes, especially new pistol purchasers, they always want like this big, fancy, heavy, cool looking thing. And it's like, but they never carry it in the long run because it's big, heavy, fancy, bulky, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, look, I'm a huge fan of the Shadow 2, the CZ Shadow 2. And I do know people that, not the SA version, the other. Anyways, there's people that carry,
the Omega double action trigger.
It might be. I know there's there's people in law enforcement that carry 1911s and things, depending on the department, and usually sometimes they're actually the very well educated, or they're really good shooters, and they're really picky about what they want to carry, and that's why. Sometimes that's not the case, but like I do sometimes talk a lot of crap about Glock. I've been trained on Glocks tons. That's actually almost all my actual formal training on any firearm's been on a Glock, and I carried one for like 15 years. But, and sometimes maybe I go too far in making a point, but it's like, I feel like Glock was just, it's like when a government agency looks at something, because I used to sell stuff to the military, they're like, what's the cheapest yet reliable enough to mitigate a lawsuit product we can get? Like, what's the cheapest, most reliable, like cheapness, but also reliable enough to be usable and mitigate a lawsuit? And that's what they like go with, in my opinion. It's like a Glock, in my opinion, is a very cheaply made, not great gun. But you have these diehard fans of Glock that are like, well, the military or the police use them, so they're the best. And I'm like, actually, I would argue it's the opposite of that. Are they reliable? Yeah. Do they go? But they're like far from the. I mean, I picked up the Canik TP9 SFX, which is actually like cheaper probably, and like the CZ. I can shoot that. I was training Glocks, carried one for like 15 years. Like the first day out with those guns, I'm shooting them more accurate. Like the first group, the first shots, I'm already more accurate. And it's just like, yeah, Glocks are great, but they're kind of just plastic, reliable garbage. And I know, yeah, sometimes I even sometimes intentionally, like, do get a little rise out of people saying that. And I'm actually a Glock fan. Like, what, like, do I still, like, when I went out in grizzly bear country or when I was in Alaska, I was like, I want a gun that can fall in the river 17 times and get just beat to garbage, and I'm not going to care about it on an emotional level. Like, it's not worth anything to me, money wise, and probably still be reliable. And so, yeah, I did carry a Glock. So people are like, well, look, you're being a hypocrite. But I know that there's definitely more accurate, well made, and there's still very other brands that are definitely reliable as well. I mean, a lot of high points people argue are reliable, and some are. But I'm going off this rabbit trail. I carry a TP. I carry a Taurus 709 Slim, which is like, I think now they're on, like, what is it, like a G4 or G5 is like the updated version of that, maybe.
G4.
I don't
Well,
even.
so you have the GX4, which is a new one. The updated version of what you have is actually would still be a G3C.
Okay, yeah, compact.
Yeah. So here's an interesting part. Like, we can have any guns we want, and we have really expensive guns. Our carry guns are sub $300 guns.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll carry an expensive one, but like, that's more of just like I'm hard on stuff, and so like if I know it's probably still reliable, like,
Yep.
and I'm gonna ruin it, then I'd rather ruin the thing that's cheaper. But
Exactly.
like,
Well, so I'm glad you brought it.
I have big handguns, and I have the 709 Slim. The 709 Slim, I'm apt to carry that 9 times out of 10 concealed. But if I have the full size Glock or whatever, I might carry that 1 out of 10. So people are like, well, I'll get the Glock because I like that better, and they never carry it. Well, if you're a gun's 6 inches and you're apt to carry it, it's still going to do you better than the gun that's not with you, because you're like, oh, it's too big. It didn't fit with my shorts. And so get the gun that you're going to actually in real life be able to conceal and carry easily, rather than the big gun that you might even be more accurate with, because it doesn't going to matter if you don't have it with you.
Yep.
That was a really convoluted answer, but
one of the things I'd say, so part of the reason, so for example, like, we can have pretty much any gun we want, but my home defense guns are Glocks, and when I have out, and the I guess now it's a PC Charger SBR. But when I'm out and about, it's generally one of the Brugers, or sometimes every so often I'll carry the Taurus GX4. And part of the reason for that, even though I have like this beautiful Sphinx SDP, which I love, but one of the things that was easily ingrained into our heads is, if you're going to need to use a gun for self-defense, be prepared to say goodbye to it for a very long time while the case is ongoing, if someone decides to sue you or whatnot. So that's why, like, look, I don't want to have it. A nail that sticks out gets hammered. And so one of the attorneys that I was speaking with, and then he was doing a bunch of speeches, he was like, okay, well, look, you don't want to have, like, your carry gun should be boring ass regular gun. If there's any question about your defensive use of a firearm, you don't want to have the prosecutor bring out your gun and say, hey, look, he had a compensator on there so you can fire off extra shots quicker. He had a match trigger in that gun because he was preparing to kill the first moment that he had. So to kind of get away from all that stuff, just have a boring ass gun that's not going to stand out, and you're not going to be made an example out of, or you're much less likely to be made an example out of.
I don't know. I think people overanalyze things like that, but I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that.
You haven't lived in the Northeast. Well, you live in a sane part where it's still America.
I've lived in. I mean, I was born and raised in Michigan. I went through concealed carry school in Michigan. I don't know. I don't. I don't know. I like most of the time when a court case, it's you know, it's based on when you go when you get charged with something and you go to court, you know, there's case laws that are used, and I don't know. I don't think much of that would ever make a difference. But I either way, get a gun that you're going to carry, not one that looks just cool or is big or you know, maybe even the most accurate. If it's huge, you're not, you know, I like a gun that I can throw in any pocket of anything I wear on in any climate. But
Absolutely. Well, and you know, like with those guns, I don't care if it gets scratched up. I don't care if
mhm,
it get beat up. I can take it in and out. Let's say if I'm running out, I can drop it into the glove box. I don't need to baby that thing. If it was a
mhm,
collectible gun or a more expensive gun, you bet your ass I would absolutely care. But for,
yeah,
I guess the same thing possibly with hunting guns. It's like, you know, it's like I'd kind of feel bad going for like a super expensive gun that I would be afraid if it gets scratches on it or it gets banged up in the woods or like you're afraid to set it down onto the rocks on the ground.
yeah. There's a lot of people. I think that's going to come down to a person's personality and also their financial well-being. If you're a multimillionaire and I'm not, you might have a $10,000, $15,000 Gunworks hunting setup and you don't care because what's super valuable to one person might not in relation to your income might not be. But yeah, in general, like people are like, hey, I like having a Ruger American or a Howa or something that you know, something that's sub $600 because they don't have that worry. They don't have to worry about it when they're hunting. And there are a lot of hunters I talk to that are like that. They're like, man, I like having a polymer stock even because it I don't have to worry about it. Like it's just a cheap gun. If it breaks, it breaks. If it gets ruined, it gets ruined. If I lose it, I can replace it. And I don't have to in the back of my head when I'm hunting, like, oh, I got to be careful with this because it's just a beater gun. And a lot of hunters like that. I think that I mean, I think I started there. I think that with what I've done and things like that, I've kind of like, well, now I appreciate something new and nicer. But Stephen will
I brought
always be a fan of how
I
you,
brought I brought that comment back up, but we are going to move
yeah.
on. There are a couple of questions I do want to answer. The one I was trying to answer for a little while, which was okay. So, did Springfield say what ammo you need to use to get a close group? No, they just said match quality ammo. They don't actually mention what. And in a lot of the cases, the match quality ammo that I shot was less accurate than regular CCI standard velocity or federal auto match. So that was that one. Now, did you have? Well, I'd like to see a Talos BTR Gen 2 10 by 42 versus whatever. I'm curious about this thing for Rimfire. The SH4 is back in the box for a year now. I'm not super familiar with the Athlon products,
Mm-hmm.
but for Rimfire, I think these are going to be fine because Ark's parallax issues and image quality and tracking issues for most people are not gonna have that much of an impact with rimfire shooting versus extended long range shooting. So I would say if you're shooting rimfire out to 400 or 500 yards, these are going to be okay.
I have the was it Harris SPR 2 to 12 from Athlon. I think it's the 2 to 12. It might be the four to
Th- those
twenty.
those are the new hunting scopes. Okay.
They're one step below the Talos though. I think in price point. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
one the Talos BTR. It's a decent scope for hunting. Um, I'm gonna have a video eventually coming out on it, but I don't have any actual firsthand experience with the Talos
No.
though.
So Alex actually brought up a really cool point. So we should recall the guns. So Springfield 2020 Rimfire. We should recall the guns replaced the barrels. That action was almost perfect. Also, the feeding was a problem. So on this topic, and I was talking to Josh and a bunch of others. Um, I didn't have feeding issues, but what I did have is it would only run with the Springfield 1022 magazine. Ruger 1022 magazines, only the 10 rounders work. The Ruger BX25 and the BX15 mags would not even fit the gun. And the aftermarket 1022 magazines would not fit the gun either. So that is also, I brought it up in the video, but you do have those issues. And yes. Okay.
Troy, you
All right.
can pass because you have health problems.
Okay. Black Rambo might be the most unsafe gun tuber of all. So this is Chris Clovertack. Thank you, buddy, for joining as always. And you're right. So actually, what's interesting though is because he is a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. Now, what I will say is, so there's been videos where he is shooting in an unsafe manner. When I was there, he followed all the gun safety laws. So I am wondering if he's being unsafe on video as a persona. Now, I am also going to go back for footage because I left the camera there while he was at the booth. So I'm going to go check that out as well. Chris is probably the nicest guy. I know he's poking fun of it, but Chris, so if you ever get a chance to meet Chris, he is one of the most down-to-earth, kind-hearted people, and he will go out of his way to answer your questions about being a gun tuber or anything else. But this is actually, so this, I will say, so let's be honest here, we all suck pretty much, right? That's why the creator of worship you see with viewers is silly. I will say, so the first time I was at SHOT Show 2 years ago and somebody comes up to me and he's like, I'm checking out the, actually I don't remember if it was this year or last year, but I was checking out the Aero Solus. This is when they had that chassis gun, when they're just coming out with it on display, and I'm checking it out and somebody comes up to me and is like, oh my God, it's you. Hey, do you mind if we take a picture and can we squat? I'm like, sure, fine, let's do that. It's like it felt a little cool. But no, it's like, don't worship us. I mean, we're just regular ass people.
I'm not even regular. I'm worse than regular. I'm a retard.
So what is Demo Ranch hates kids? Chris, you got to tell
Doesn't
me
he have
about this.
kids? Or
I
does he
don't know
hate
what this
fans
is
that are
about.
kids?
Okay,
I
Persona.
have no idea what he's really like. I just meant that like his entertainment I see as a safer version than like Black Rambo's.
Yeah.
As far
Persona,
as like gun safety and stuff.
I couldn't believe that you guys would ever act like Persona. So we don't, like within our circle of friends, we don't. I will say in my first videos and the kind of the premise of SlavGuns, I really wanted to be kind of like FPS Russia. But I'm like, I can't. It's retarded. I can't act like a retard on camera. So I toned it down over the years.
You don't own a big enough ranch and have enough money to do what he did, probably.
I also don't do drugs or get raided by
That is an
feds.
insult. I'm just being like you like what didn't he have a lot of resources at his disposal to be able to do the stuff he did
It
and money
wasn't
or
him. It wasn't him. It was his business partner.
oh okay.
And the interesting part is, I mean, like I do have friends who have like a lot of guns. I mean, if we really wanted to, we could do it. The problem is, I think like right now with YouTube is like that type of content, it's definitely not monetizable. It just doesn't make that much sense. And acting like an idiot in an unsafe manner, I don't think it's doing anything. So kind of even talking about like gun rights. So like I'm not gonna. I generally stay away from politics in the live streams and definitely in the videos. My entire premise with it is, look, it's like if you want to ensure gun rights, let's get firearms into as many people's hands as possible. Because so even though I'm an NRA instructor, it's like even though like every single person that I have ever worked with who was a newer shooter, there hasn't been a time yet when I took a first-time shooter, whether they were conservative or liberal, and at the end of the day, they're like, ew, yuck, this is bad. Or at the very least, they no longer had the misconception that the gun is going to go off if you look at it the wrong way. Now, granted, the SIG P320 fiasco, it might just go off if you look at it the wrong way. I kid about that. But that's why really the big focus with the channel is I want to empower people to be able to go out to the range, have fun, and more importantly, try something new. And really the entire premise with the channel, I mean, even though like right now we're doing more precision rifle stuff, I have access to a 700-yard range and soon a 1-mile range. And I come into this as a gun gamer USPSA guy. And by expanding the horizon, so by having someone enjoy hunting, enjoy precision rifle shooting, enjoy match shooting, enjoy handguns, enjoy shotguns, archery, muzzleloaders, whatever, it will ingrain them further into the firearms community, so that when even whether they're even if when we're no longer as heavily involved into firearms, when they're at a local board meeting or they're at the local campaign rally and somebody says something stupid about guns, they'll be like, whoa, hold on, that's kind of bullshit. And that's my premise on it. It's like, so like I want to get as many people shooting as we possibly can. Yeah, so you're right. There are some weird gun tubers that run around SHOT Show in tracksuits. I don't know what their issue is. They run around in those blue tracksuits and it says Dylan on the back of their shirts. I don't know. Yes, there are actually
That's a little bit of a persona. Persona. You guys pronounce it differently than I do.
persona.
I say persona. I say it wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm the wrong
Persona.
saying it wrong.
Yeah, a little bit. It's
Persona.
okay.
I think if I do any personas, I think that it's so light that it's not really that unauthentic, and also I think it's like a persona I would do anyways. Like it's probably part of who I am as a goofball anyway. Like it's not like just for YouTube.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, so here's a question from Michael. Will I have a segment about 5.7 and its new adopters? Looks like a flat shooter. I've done a couple of videos on 5.7. So the one I covered was the Ruger 5.7 when it came out. I've shot a number of 5.7s. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the cartridge. Until we have the ammo situation sorted out, it is stupid expensive, and the cartridge is much more difficult to reload. So when it comes to 5.7, because it's basically a bottleneck rifle cartridge, and the brass is actually coated in order to load. So there's more intricacies to it. I don't think it's that practical. I do think it's really practical in, let's say, for example, if you can have a P90 FN with a 50 round magazine in full auto, that's stupid fun. But for handguns, I don't think it's, I mean, unless you're shooting armor piercing stuff and that's your purpose, it's not that great. And like, yes, it's a little bit less recoil, but the problem that you run into, especially in the handgun world, because there is less moving mass. Um, let's say, for example, like I'll use an example like the Ruger 5.7. When you're adding, so the gun was optimized to run without a dot. When you're adding a red dot onto the gun, you have to be particular with what type of ammo you're shooting. It needs to be heavy grain enough in order to reliably cycle it. Otherwise, it might not. So you got to go like with a lower weight stuff. So I'm not just, it's cool. I think there's like more of a marketing push behind it right now rather than actually being practical.
and I'm completely dumb on that one.
Yeah.
I don't.
So on going back to James Reeves, yeah, I mean, very professional, very business oriented. I mean, he puts in the hard work. Really good guy. And yes, so it was the Model 70, which was the Winchester, a first model of Vietnam.
Oh, Clover Tack. I haven't. I know you guys did. I probably shouldn't bring this up on here, but we had our little. You guys do your like live stream thing or your like private chat group or whatever. I haven't got an invite for that in a while on email. I don't know if you guys are doing it this week or not, but you can email me about it if you want.
I believe it does. It's been a little while since it took it down. But honestly, so the Ruger Hawkeye long range target, and full disclosure, is still one of my favorite guns. I liked it more than the Ruger precision rifle, but then also I appreciate a control round feed action. The
Well,
new
angled. Wait, he was saying something about the angled action screw.
Yeah, so M77 should have an angled, one of the action screws holding it in is angled.
Right. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If so, was it functional?
Why wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Like,
I
was there a
think it.
reason? Was there a reason why it was angled?
I can only guess reasons. I think it was it basically. So like Howa 1500 has the front action screw going through the recoil lug, but it's vertical, not angled. My guess is that they angled theirs to like basically you're sucking the recoil lug to the rear. Maybe that was their reasoning. But then if you think about it, the gun would recoil this way. So I don't know, but I think that was their thinking is like to
I'm gonna
pull it
try to
in a
find out.
direction.
Troy, do me a
Yeah.
favor. Leave it as a comment to this video. So not in the chat, but as an actual comment to the video. You might have to wait until the video is over, but I will, or send me a DM on Instagram or any of those. I will send that email to the engineers at Ruger because now I'm interested. But if you don't email me, I'm going to forget.
They weren't the only ones to do an angled action screw, I don't think. I think there was some other European manufacturers that did it, or still might even do it.
The new Remingtons do have Timney triggers. Ruger compact with Vortex crossfire scope is all the lightness I need. And for an East Coast hunter, I'm sure it's going to be more than fine. Sig Cross, yes. Did you update your trigger? I'm sorry, your bolt for the recall?
Steve from Wyoming, check out his channel. I just saw him today. He has a Remington that was a recall Remington. He never recalled it. He kind of just fixed the trigger himself, and he said that it in fact would fire when he'd cycle the bolt with the safety off without pulling the trigger.
All right, so this is a good comment that I wanted to have a little bit input on. So people who have, from Chris, people who have little money, few guns, and less experience tend to fanboy out over whatever they own because that is all they have and all they know. I would also add whatever is popular on forums. So like generally like the different communities, we're going to fanboy over their own stuff. And I would even say like, for example, like action sports. So like USPSA, CZ handguns in particular are very popular. You go to like USPSA matches, DPA matches, 60% of USPSA national match shooters use the CZ or CZ clone. Yet CZ struggling to break out of 1% market share in the handgun world. So it's, I guess you can say like some of the matches are fanboys as well.
It says, so the Ruger Hawkeye still has an angled action screw. I don't know if it's still correct, but like people are saying it pulls the barrel action down and against the horizontal and vertical bedding surfaces. And they're talking about that pulls down the recoil lug too on the front, which is basically what I said, but they said it better in this information here, but yeah, I would be interested if that's not from the horse's mouth, so it'd be interesting to see what they say. Yeah, well, it's weird because like you have brand loyalists, and it's like things trend. It's like a social thing, and then the more they trend, the more they get confirmation bias sometimes. So like if they're like, oh, CZ is the best, and then like the cool guy at the match uses it, then the next cool guy at the match, then the next, and then everybody's like, well, all the guys winning, because it might be that a lot of the guys using it use CZs. Then they're like, well, all the guys winning, so it must be the best. But that doesn't actually mean it's the best. It just means like they're taking over a greater percentage. Because if you got 9 out of 10 competitors using a CZ, then obviously the guy not using it probably isn't going to win the match, like statistically. So then they have confirmation bias. They're like, well, it's the best. You got to use it. So it's so interesting how things develop. And yeah, like when I still don't have a lot of money, but when I had even less and I would buy a rifle, if it was really expensive, it's like you really want it to be as good as you think it was going to be or thought it was going to be, and because you put down your hard-earned money. Mm-hmm. You like you have some skin in the game, so to speak, and you're like, man, this thing better be good. And then that kind of comes across when you talk about it.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think this
but
is great to kind of like even rounding out the conversation with what we started talking about, which was okay. So like Springfield does have the Springfield Shill Army, which does produce paid for content, and then people will say, "Well, see, look, it's like obviously because you had your paid shills who were saying that this is going to be great, but then you have people who pay their own money for something. Well, there's also biases there, and that's why. So I don't have a problem with sponsored content or not, just disclose the damn thing. Just say, hey, you know what? This is what it is. And I guess, like even like for us, I mean, look, I bought the gun kind of hoping that it sucks, just kind of to find out because I thought it'd be interesting. But there are a lot of people. Let's say, for example, if this was my only gun, or um, I wasn't in a position that I am, I would most certainly. I mean, there are definitely a lot of people, especially newer gun owners. I think you're right. It's going to be the new gun owners for whom it has to be. You have to pick the best product. Well, I don't think there's truly the best product. It's whatever might be the best product for you and your particular situation and what you want to accomplish. But there is no one best product overall. It just doesn't exist. Um, I mean, for example, like you can't have the best hunting gun, which is also going to be the best long range gun. It's completely two different opposite things. Um, so the people
yeah,
who are, and so like when somebody's buying their first gun, they're like, oh well, this Glock is better than everything else. I'm like, okay, well, obviously for you, that Glock is going to be good. And it's only after they've had the experience, after they bought 4 or 5 or 6 guns, that you start realizing that it's the best tool for that particular job and that there is no best tool overall. And even though we can have the Swiss Army knives, it's like, well, it's a Swiss Army knife. It's not going to be the best bang for the buck, um, or it's not going to be the most effective tool. So just
right.
on the YouTuber side, just disclose the relationship. If you're a fanboy, just realize that, okay, well, it's cool that you're being a fanboy, but I guess let's put it this way. I definitely, I mean, since we're talking about Arkin, I mean, like the people who like swear by Arkans, I am fairly positive that these are also people who have generally not shot past 300 or 400 yards. So the issues with these scopes don't necessarily represent themselves. They don't show up yet. But say, for example, with the EP5, it's like it was fine out to 800 yards or 1,000 yards. Once we started getting past 1,000 yards, I'm like, okay, I really wish I had a different scope with me, which was going to be a little bit more powerful or a little bit more capable. Um, but if I wasn't a gun tuber and I didn't know this, and all I ever did was shot inside 300 yards, I would absolutely be screaming, well, dude, it's like, how can you be so stupid to spend $3,000 on a Loophole or a Night Force? This Arkin is just as good as a Schmidt and Bender. And yes, we did
Yeah,
have a YouTuber who made those wild claims and accusations, but that's because, once again, he was getting paid 25% affiliate commissions to make sure that these things sold. And I also believe that um, they weren't that experienced with, I'm not going to say qualified, I would say they just didn't have that experience to use something else. And I think ultimately the experience point, somebody asked about like the Ruger Precision as the first rifle, so whatever the product is, until you look at a product and see this is exactly how and when it's going to hold me back, you shouldn't waste on different product until you specifically know how something is going to hold you back. Until someone can perfectly well explain how, in their case, having something that's going to have a 2% tracking error is going to be okay, but having a 5 or 10% tracking error is going to hold them back. You just get the cheapest thing that you can that'll do what you need it to do and get the experience that you need.
I think,
So that was a lot of things.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm getting on a
I
tangent.
My headset keeps saying it's almost about to go dead. I think, I mean, I've made every mistake in the book, and I still continue to make a lot of mistakes. I think with YouTube in general, it's really hard because there's the algorithm and the consumer in such a way. There's pressure on you to make thumbnails. This is kind of like I'm going to come back to what you kind of were
Okay.
touching on. Make thumbnails that have good click-through rate, that get attention. Well, in really statistically, thumbnails that are negative and exaggeratory are those thumbnails that do that. And then you got it. You feel like you got to make dramatic content. Then on the same time, if you're not already a successful millionaire, which hardly none of us are, then you're forced to do content on what you buy normally, and that means that you're like, how do I make this catchy and entertaining and engaging? If this is all I can buy, and then you have that. Well, and then on the flip side of this, and this is kind of what you were a little bit along the lines of maybe what you're talking about too, or whatnot, is like, if when I first started buying guns, especially optics, it's like, if you don't know, if the thing you bought to do and you do the video on it as a gun tuber, and you hadn't had the money, or you don't know somebody who owns a gun shop, you haven't had the opportunity to use something better, it is the best to you because you've never used anything better. So it's not you might not be being dishonest. I'm not talking about what you said. That guy knew what he was doing, I believe. I think it was all about money. But I'm saying, like, if you buy a $500 scope, you're like, this is amazing. What is amazing? Because you've never had anything better. And not only that, but like, the longer you use more things, the more you realize that, like, the more I've hunted, the more I realize, well, like, yes, there's diminishing returns, but the $2,000 pair of binos in low light or bad fog consistently is going to outperform the $500 pair of binos. Now, are you both probably going to be as successful at the end of the day on your hunt with either one? Yeah, probably, honestly. But if you're looking for like the best experience, and you're really trying to do your best job getting a trophy animal, and you're dealing with these different conditions, maybe you would pick the $2,000 pair if you have the money, because you're going to get a better image quality in low light. And that's like where Dark Lord Optics, it's like, I'm sure I'm certainly looked like an idiot to him before. We probably all have, especially when I first started my older content. It's like, he's probably like, yeah, but he's actually really nice. Like, he's very good at like just listening, and I'm not. And he probably is like, yeah, Bresnaw thinks that's a great scope, and in his mind he's probably like thinking, I just looked at a tangent theta, like, this guy's an idiot. Like, there's no comparison. But like, we all grow at our own pace and in our own ways, and whatnot, and so it's just something to keep in mind. But
Thank you, Chris. So Chris sent a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, bud. So talking about the Dark Lord of Optics, it's funny. He's like, he does have a slight persona, but he pokes fun at his own persona. But actually, in real life, he is probably the nicest person he's one of the nice people that you will meet. And he will take his time to explain things to you. Yes, in the back of his head, he might think of, wow, this guy's a moron, but he's going to be super nice and actually explain it to you anyway. Yes. Okay. So my light, actually, just the batteries are going to be already dying on it anyway. I'm just going to go through some of these comments really quick, and then we're going to wrap up for this one. And if any other questions, so I kid a lot, but Bullets for Bucks and you are definitely a couple of good eggs. I appreciate that. I mean, like, I do consider ourselves like one big family. And look, it's like, if you see me at the show, or you see any of these guys at the show, just come up, say hello. We won't bite, and we won't be douchebags. I promise. Unless, actually, Steven's actually a really good dude. Okay.
I complain a lot.
and we do have confirmation. I 100% have witnessed him being unsafe with cameras rolling, without cameras rolling. Okay. So there you go. Nice. So there was a question about Tracked Optics lifetime warranty. They do, in fact, have a lifetime warranty. They might have at some point not have it, but honestly, right now, if you have an optics company, if you don't have a lifetime warranty, you have no future. I mean, you will absolutely be demolished, and you will get passed by other people who have it. And this was actually their warranty that I put up on the screen so you guys can see.
We can
And
thank Vortex for that one because they
yep,
kind of pushed the market on that one, I think.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I think we got most of the questions. If I didn't, I absolutely apologize. Actually, one comment I did want to make was I don't remember if it was Troy or Michael, but on the recoil. So I think the biggest misconception that people have, especially when it comes to handguns, is trying to fight the recoil. Don't fight the recoil. Just let the recoil happen. This is actually the biggest thing that I had to adjust when I went from shooting USPSA production or USPSA single stack with a 9mm. So big, heavy brick, shooting 9mm, very flat, very low recoil. And then when I went to my 2011 SVI, which was a polymer grip 40 Smith & Wesson shooting major, I'm like, oh, wow, this is like horrible. Here I am shooting a $6,000 gun. It's like horrible that the recoil is like really bad. But you have to take into account, and like I was talking to, I think it was JJ or one of the, or it could have been Eric Groffel, and he was like, look, just like don't fight the recoil, just let the recoil happen. And as soon as you think about it in your head, if you don't def grip the gun after it's cycle, you want to let the gun cycle as quickly as you can and come back. And if you don't fight it, it's going to come back right basically on that same spot. So you want to have a good enough grip that the gun is not going to fly out of your hand, but don't def grip it that you're fighting the gun. I know a lot of people do want to go for a heavier gun, and it is absolutely true that recoil is your energy divided by mass. So the heavier the gun, the less the recoil is going to be. However, as long as you're physically capable of doing it, just let the recoil happen. The gun's going to come back on target. And if that's going to be your goal, and do it. And it's also kind of like the same reason why, like, I just see it like, instead of having like, my pocket carry is a LCP max, so you're shooting a 380 LCP out of a 11-ounce gun. Yes, there's a bunch of recoil, but it's the price that you're paying for that purpose. And I'd rather have a good quality gun for whatever that purpose is. Now, also, one of the things to consider is that it's not going to be just the weight of the gun that has to do with the recoil, but the way that the gun is designed. So you remember the Hudson H9, and then we have the Alien pistol. Well, there we have a much lower bore axis, and that is almost like a joy to shoot, even though they weigh less than a very heavy CZ as well. Well, at least the Hudson did. I'm not sure about the Alien. But that's a very, very flat shooting gun as well. And then you can obviously look into tuning ammo for that particular gun. Then you're playing with the recoil springs, and that's a very deep rabbit hole. And maybe over the winter time, we're actually going to deal with some of that stuff, especially since my friend who has the private range where I film a lot of my handgun content, he's like, you haven't been here filming in a long while, because I've been going mostly a lot of the rifle stuff. So we're gonna fix that, and I do have a couple of really cool handguns. Plus, I'm sure we're gonna have new stuff for SHOT Show, and we're gonna do some stuff with that. All right, so that was that. Michael, thank you very much. Is that a super sticker or is that a super chat? It's showing up a little bit differently. Pair character lifting some weight, saying it, keep it up. Thank you very much. All right, so hopefully that answers a bunch of your questions. Stephen, thank you very much for joining me, my friend, as always. Love having these conversations, especially, obviously, I'm not a hunter, but you answer a lot of it, and you kind of give that really awesome perspective on that, and just a good person to have all around. I know. And those faces. Plus, I need to have somebody with facial hair on the stream, because it's like I'm clean shaven and like I don't look like a gun guy as a result of it. So, for everyone who came on, thank you very much for joining the stream. Thank you for your questions. We definitely had a lively discussion on this one. This week, we are going to do 1 or 2 new videos. I am going to have the Arkin videos up in that Springfield 2020. I'm going to have more details on our patches. Make sure you check them out. So go to luxgon.com. You can order our patches, and they'll be shipped out very soon. And otherwise, we'll see you on the next live stream, same time next week. Good night.